No jokes. Wasn't in my plans to have a show tonight. This will probably be a quick one, but breaking news, I had to go live. I don't think it's any coincidence that this happens on a Friday afternoon. If you know anything about politics, especially Massachusetts politics, they like to dump news on Friday afternoon, hoping everyone forgets about it by Monday morning. That's just what happened. My night off. I was supposed to have a night off tonight. I just got off Auntie Deb's show, which was fun. Quick little hour and 15 minutes or so. But that was supposed to be it. But I'm back. I'm back. I have to come back because Auntie Bev, Beverly Cano, the joke of a judge, just dropped the news, just dropped the ruling. She is ruling against Mark Bederow, saying Mark Bederow will not be allowed. Will not be allowed. Let's read this. Decision and order on defendant's supplemental motion for admission pro hack vice of Mark A. Bederow in the Commonwealth versus Massachusetts, Norfolk County, Norfolk Superior Criminal Court. There it is. After the review of the pleadings, the defendant's supplemental motion for admission pro hire vice of attorney Mark A. Bederow is denied. The the affirmation submitted in support of the motion is insufficient on its face. In addition, the proposed concurrent representation involves a conflict of interest that is not waivable under Massachusetts rules of professional responsibility. See Mass R. Prof. Responsibility 1.7a and b. See also comments 22 and 23. Once such conflict is specifically outlined in the motion at paragraph number 8, where Mr. Bederow, apparently speaking through Mr. Yannetti, promises to restrict his use of certain information. The clear inference of the promise is that Mr. Bederow would not use protected information gained in the representation of one client for purposes of his representation of the other client. He thus proposes to ignore information known to him through his representation of one client, even where the information might benefit the second client. The court cannot permit such conflicted representation and declines to add to the defense team that currently numbers at least 4 lawyers, 3 by admission pro hack vice. Order defendant's supplemental motion for admission pro hack vice of Mark A. Bederow, paper number 549, is hereby denied. March 7th, 2025. This is signed by Judge Beverly Canoni, Justice of the Superior Court. Wow. This is America now. This is America where they can just basically decide who can represent you in court, huh? Good point here. Why mention the number of attorneys? Why dump it on a Friday afternoon? Isn't that curious how she dumps it on a Friday afternoon? Notorious. I mean, ask any PR hack on Beacon Hill. When's the best time to dump bad news for your clients? Friday afternoon. Pro hack Vici. Yes, it is Pro hack Vici. Excuse me. Oh, whatever. It doesn't matter if I don't know the Latin. We know what it means. She's turned him down. And we know what that Vici, whatever that word is. We know what it is. We know what it is. This is unbelievable to me. People already want to know, does that mean Mark Bederow can come back on the show? I have no idea on that. That's not something I've even really worried about. Like in terms of my big thing is I want Attorney Bederow to be able to represent Karen. I think he would be an asset to her defense. And Attorney Bederow, maybe I have a feeling the defense team might be appealing this. So I have a feeling he's not quite out of the woods on defending Karen Reed. And even if he's not defending Karen Reed, he may already have a conflict in all of this, not to be able to do as many shows as he used to do. So I would say I'm not too confident that he'll be back on these shows. But the big thing is, this is outrageous. This is outrageous to me. This should have been a formality. I'm just kind of horrified by it that they can decide who can defend you. You can see they're trying to pick off Jackson, not allow Bederow. Don't look into the jury tampering. Doing everything they can so that Karen Reed doesn't have a strong defense. That's what it looks like to me on a Friday afternoon. On a Friday afternoon. We see you, Bev Cano. We see you. Shocking. This is like disgusting. It really is. They say there's a conflict of interest. I could see some kind of a conflict of interest in a way, but these two clients are so supportive of each other. So I don't see it. They're working hand in hand. So come on. What's the conflict? What's going to help Karen that's not going to help Aiden? They are connected. You know, you could say that they're not being tried together, but they are in the court of public opinion. So what's the real conflict here? If both clients are very intelligent people, they understand all the risks of conflict of interest, and why can't they decide who their attorney's going to be? Don't tell me that you know better the interest of Karen Reed and Aiden Carney, Beverly Canone, than they do. This is big. This is Big Mother. Big Mother Bev. Big Mother Bev knows what's right for Aiden and Karen. No way. Stop it. Stop it. This is why I hate government. This is why I hate judges like Beverly Canone. I really do. I'm really kind of disgusted. This is disgusting. He knows better than Aiden for himself. She knows better than Karen Reed. Come on. One thing if these people weren't fit, but these are highly intelligent people that know all about their cases and know all about Bederow. Got a super chat. Greg says the problem is on the most technical of technicalities, the judge has the ability to do this. But that's the problem with this judge. If she could find the smallest window to screw this defense, she's going to squeeze through it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see if they can actually appeal this. Is this appealable? Will they appeal it? I don't know. I don't know. Probably gonna send a message to Bederow and ask him if he can even tell me privately, but I wouldn't count on it. I don't ask him for anything right now. That's why I'm contemplating. Should I even ask him? I have a feeling we'll hear. We'll hear. They'll let us know. This is wild though. I just can't, you know? I had to go live for this. It's just a quick little live to comment on it. I am horrified by it. I really am. I was wondering if this was gonna happen. I just had a sick feeling. Everyone kept saying, "Oh, you've lost Bederow," and I'm sitting there, "Well, maybe not, maybe not." The thing is, for us, people are all worried about the show, about the numbers, and if we're doing great. We had one of the best months without Bederow this month, and obviously, I would love to have Bederow back on the show, and he puts up the biggest numbers, and he's what everyone wants. But we still had a great month without him. So for us, you just miss your guy being on the show. We all want to hear him. We want to see him and Mazza together. 3 M's, absolutely. But the best thing for everybody is to see Bederow in court representing Karen Reed and Aiden Carney. That's what we all want. And this is such a blow to that. This is just it's really frustrating to me. Like, think about it. The judge thinks she knows better than what's good for Aiden and Karen. Who would you trust? Who would you rather trust? Karen and Aiden to know what's best for them, or Judge Canoni to know what's best for them? We're gonna ask some attorneys coming up. I got a lot of shows scheduled here. Tomorrow night, Saturday night, we got a non-attorney, Rita Lombardi. A lot of people have been missing Rita. She's coming back tomorrow night. She's going to talk all about Canton, the police audit, this Canton select board election, why she's supporting Susan Harrington. I'm looking forward to that. Saturday, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Rita Lombardi. Rita is coming back on the Young Jerks tomorrow night. That's going to be a fun. Last time she called in, we were kinda button heads, we didn't agree on something, but we laughed our asses off right from the get-go when she called in because I knew it was gonna be fun. I just love Rita, and I'm so looking forward to having a lot of laughs and a lot of passion and, hearing Rita Lombardi on the show tomorrow night. So that's happening tomorrow night. Monday night, have a new attorney no one's heard from yet on a show coming on. I'm not gonna say who it is yet, but, Monday night's gonna be fun. And then on Thursday night, we also have a major hitter attorney, well known, coming on the show. So we got a huge week coming up here on the Young Jerks, and we're just getting started. I am so looking forward to what's happening on the Young Jerks. And this right here just gets me going even more. This judge, I keep saying, there's three answers to this. Is Judge Canodi just not good at her job, which we started with, or is she biased, or is she corrupt? I want to hear from you in the chat. Is There's three answers. No, A is she's not good at her job. B is she's just biased. C is she is corrupt. Which one do you think? I want to hear from you right now. A, B, or C about Judge Canoni. Corrupt, that's what I'm saying. All 3, someone said all 3, all 3. That's a good one. We'll say all 3 is a legitimate answer to it too. A lot of people saying C, corrupt. A lot of people saying A and B and C. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, she's not good at her job. She's biased and corrupt. I like that one. You guys are brilliant. Some people say B. Oh, my dog's acting up. Let me just check on my dog for 1 second. All right, you guys can hear me again, right? Good. Yeah, A, B, and C. Some people saying B and C. Oh, yeah, the doggy's okay. Mama just came home. Mama came home. I had all the doggies in the room here with me, and as soon as she hits hits the house, they go crazy, so I gotta let them out. Um, yeah, you could say hi to the dog, but the dog is there's one dog here. He's just laying down chilling. He's the guest dog, but Charlie is the one that has to go see Mama. So you can't see him right now because he just took off to go see Mama. Oh yeah, Bev is absolutely corrupt. This is just really frustrating. Really frustrating. I got some more super chats. I want to thank Kevin Higgins. He said, I am furious, but I love spicy Mike Crawford. Let's rant, bro. So mad. I know, right? Oh, Kevin Higgins. You got oh, that's not funny. I love it. I love Kevin Higgins. Are you from South Boston, Kevin, by the way? Are you from the neighborhood, the old neighborhood? Do you know Whitey and Jimmy and Billy? Laura, she says co-defense have some lawyers. This is similar. Why not? Or have the same lawyers. I'm sorry, I'm still having trouble reading there. Co-defendants have same lawyers. This is similar. Why not? I know they're basically, even though they're not technically co-defendants, they basically are. And you know what? The state tried to make them co-defendants. They actually tried to indict them as co-defendants. It failed. So that was for some other counts, but they basically are. You're right, Laura. And you know what? In the end, this would be something where to me, a judge should say to the defendant, say, "Hey, do you understand that this could be a conflict of interest? Have your lawyers advised you? Have your lawyers advised you your rights? Do you understand this? Have you you're obviously a smart lady, Karen Reed. You're professional. You're highly involved in your defense. Do you understand this kind of conflict of interest and why we're worried about it? And you're waiving any objections to it, right?" And she would say, "Yes." Okay, move on. You Karen Reed, you're equipped enough to make this decision for yourself. You understand there could be a conflict. Should be as simple as that. As long as Karen Reed understands and agrees to it. Amy's Positive Pathways writes, from what I understand, and not a lawyer, denial of pro hoc vici or whatever it is called is not appearance. I may be wrong though. It was just research online. I'm not sure what that means though. Denial of pro hac vici is not appearance. What does that mean? Not appearance of what? I'll look it up right now. Pro hac is a practice in common law jurisdictions whereby a lawyer who has not been admitted to practice in certain jurisdictions is allowed to participate in a particular case in that jurisdiction, although pro hac vici admission is available in every American jurisdiction, and civil jurisdictions generally have much stricter rules for multi jurisdictional practice. Oh, just means that he would be able to be a lawyer in Massachusetts under Yanetti's license. That's my understanding of it. Okay, so you were saying supposed to say appealable. Okay. Yeah, it might not be appealable. That's the problem, right? It's a weird thing. Is it actually appealable? I don't know. We'll find out very soon. It seems like it should be to me that you can't decide who your attorney is. Maybe it's not, but it seems un-American. It really does. You don't have the right to pick your attorney. I mean, that would be one thing if you don't have your you weren't mentally up to snuff to make that kind of decision, you know? If you had lost your rights to care for yourself, for instance, okay, okay, that makes sense. But someone like Karen Reed, and you base it off of this conflict of interest thing, come on, come on. Especially when they're basically co-defendants. I mean, come on. Y Hank Brennan's trying to bring in Turtle Boy into this case right friggin' now. So why shouldn't Bederow be able to represent both? I hope it's appealable. I really do. Especially when the attorney's doing it for free too, you know? Like, there's gonna be a real cost for her in terms of not having Bederow. That's what really pisses me off. Yeah, we all wanna hear from him. I wonder if he's gonna be posting on Twitter. Yeah. But is there really a conflict, though? That's the key on this. I don't see where the conflict is. I really don't. See, someone else said it can be appealed. That's what we're gonna find out. I have a feeling it can be. If I had to bet on it, I have a feeling it is, but other people are saying it's not, and I don't know. Judge's decision denying an attorney appearance or representation can be appealed. That's what NCSHP retired. That's the North Carolina Highway Patrolman, State Highway Patrolman. He believes it's appealable, but I don't know. I'm just mad more than anything. Like, more than what does it mean? I'm just mad. I'm just angry. Kim writes, Mike, the problem is the court is calling Bederow's ability to practice ethically. That is beyond outrageous, beyond. I cannot express the disgust. I know, right? That's the other thing. With no evidence, zero evidence, they're questioning his ethics, whether he could actually do this. Like, that's disgusting too. But I mean, makes me so angry. Bev knows better than Karen. Bev knows what's best for her better than Karen. Maybe Bev should decide what medicines Karen takes for her MS. Maybe Bev should decide which doctor she sees. I mean, is that where we're at here? Is just Bev runs Karen's life now? That's what it seems like. You can't have this attorney because I know better than you. You can't have this free service. You can't have an attorney offering one of the best New York City attorneys, criminal defense, a guy that the FBI agents go to when they get caught up in some shit. You can't have him because I know better than you. Because I feel like there's a conflict. Auntie Bev. She's your big sister you need, like Big Brother. Big Brother Bev. It's ridiculous. It's outrageous. And to drop it on a Friday afternoon, hoping the press doesn't pick it up. Everyone's going home for the weekend. The only thing better than doing it on a Friday, dropping that news on a Friday afternoon is if it was a long weekend, a Friday and a long weekend. I mean, she was probably looking at the calendar like, shit, I just missed a long weekend. Should have done it then. Unbelievable. That's why I went live. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make as much noise about this as quickly as I can because tomorrow night I got Rita Lombardi. And if there's going to be complaints filed against Bev Canone, this should be added to the file. Because I know that some people have expressed interest in somehow filing some complaints against the judge. Add it to the file. Can you imagine too if Bederow does come out in some of our shows and start speaking on this shit? He might even be more fired up. Mm. And you know what? I'm interested to see what all the other attorneys are saying right now too. That's the other thing. We're gonna have some more attorneys on this week. I'm really interested to see what they have to say about Bederow being excluded like this. If they're with me and that they think this is like government overreach, telling someone who's very competent, Karen Reed, what lawyers she could use, that just seems really shady. Especially in the beginning too, like when Judge Bev just basically when they put up Bederow, she seemed like she was gonna automatically approve it. And then she takes this jackass Brennan who doesn't submit an affidavit, who says, I'm not really opposing this, but then goes on to express why he's actually opposing it without any affidavit, with nothing in writing. And she's like, oh, well, just add some more stuff, Yannetti, to the file, and you should be good. Makes Yannetti do more work. And then she turns it down on a Friday afternoon after making us wait for how long? We waited. It was over a week. Been a while. How many weeks has it been since? Who knows? Who knows? How many days has it been since they announced Bederow was applying? It's ridiculous. Freaking ridiculous. And that's the other reason why I think Federer probably won't be going on shows. I agree, Jeanette. I think he's probably still going to be helping no matter what. Yeah, February 18th. It's been over 2 weeks, and she drops it. It's been almost a month. Look at that. Today's March 7th, and she drops it on a Friday afternoon. So shady. She looks like she's part of the media op with Breenan and Lally and David Traub, who left, whoever else they have to replace him with Morrissey. This looks like part of the media op. She looks like she's part of the gang. As Brian Barea says, this is also on the docket now. Decision and order on Commonwealth's motion to impose sanctions pursuant to Mass Criminal R48 and oral motion to prohibit prejudicial extrajudicial statements of counsel. Oh boy, 3-7. Wow. I have to check that out too. Thank you, Attorney Brian Barea. Brian actually filed a ethics complaint against the district attorney, Michael Morrissey, before the first trial about the hostage video and some other things. Now, dropping all the big news on Friday afternoon, right, Brian? What politicians do. The judges acting like politicians. That's a good point, Be Kind Tiger. Lawyer, said it was a hint when she mentioned 4 lawyers that Jackson won't get kicked off, which I think is obvious. I think she's gonna sanction him, but probably after this is all over and probably just a fine or something like that. I don't think she's gonna kick him off the Karen Reed Defense Fund, the team. But geez, to not let her have Bederow when he's an expert on these kind of police corruption cases. That's the thing. Like I didn't see that we got to see the filing, what Yannetti submitted for why they wanted Bederow, but pretty obvious why they want Bederow. He's an expert at a lot of these police corruption and Brady violations. Like what more do you need explaining? You know? Mhm. And it's funny. I have quite a lot of family kind of weird intersections with the Bulger family. Let's put it that way from back in the day. Not that I knew them, not that really funny. Like in my immediate family, my mom once met Billy when he was flying, and she was one of the reservation people. And she upgraded him because her kids went to state college and he worked, for the state college system. And she was like, "You're doing a great job." And he looked at her and he said, "Are you from the neighborhood? Are you from the neighborhood?" She's like, "No, I'm not from the neighborhood. My kids go to state college. Please keep getting money for the state colleges." He's like, "Oh, thank you so much." She upgraded him from, gave him first class that day for free. And there was some other stuff too that I'm not going to talk about. The other side of the family, which is it's funny. I'm bringing that up because someone brought up the Bulger name right now, Kevin Higgins. He said, "Yes, I was good friends with Jimmy Bulger. Rest in hell," he says. Let's go, Mike. This is all about the mob. Hanky took the position from DA Morrissey because he is broke. No street drug crime. He needs money, so he got an offer from Morrissey to become Commonwealth. You wrong. Yeah, Hanky definitely wants to be the next DA. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious that the goal on this is they win the conviction on Karen Reed, and then Morrissey endorses Hank Brennan for DA. That's the goal. You can see it so clear. Greg sent $5. He said, I would need to see some Judge Glanville level stuff to jump on the corrupt train. We're not quite there yet, in my opinion. I still vote unashamedly biased. Yeah, I mean, if I had to bet on it, that's what I would say right now to Greg. I went from just bad at her job to the bias to moving towards corrupt. I mean, I can't prove it, but it's just a feeling I get. But if I had to bet on it right now, I would bet with you, Greg. I would bet in the middle on bias, but I appreciate the people who are voting for all three because I feel like that's probably where ultimately we're all going to end up because stuff like this, just like, are you shitting me? You're not going to let her have Bederow for free. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm trying not to be too spicy today too, even though I'm mad because last night I got spicy. I start dropping the F bombs and then children can't watch and parents can't watch. I had some of that last night. So people are like, I wanted to watch, but Mike was going crazy. I had to turn it off. The kids were there. I'm sorry. Sorry. I hope I didn't swear in front of you, any of your little kids there. Funny, our show has a lot of kids that listen. They say, hi, Mike. All right. You know what I think I'm gonna do? I might take up a few calls, maybe. Well, how many people? We got enough people? Yeah, I think we got enough people to call right now. Yeah, no one rules against Mark Bederow. And then I think I want to just play the entire. I'm so mad. We're gonna play the entire episode of the first time that Bederow came on this show with myself and Mazda Media. We're gonna do a throwback tonight. We're gonna play the whole episode. I'm very upset about Bev. This is our payback tonight. You know what I want to do though? Before I do that, like I said, we'll take a couple calls. Be quick. And please, today, I don't really want to hear any of your theories about the case and all that. I know people like to do that a lot. Tonight, I just want to hear about what you think about Judge Bev and what you think about Bederow. And maybe what questions you want us to ask upcoming guest true attorneys. Got a lot of those. Got a lot of new attorneys coming on the show this week and next week. And I'm going to put the StreamYard link right now in the chat. If you want to make a comment or call, you don't have to turn on your video. You can do audio only. Now I got people calling on the phone number. We're not doing the phone number tonight because I still haven't worked that out to make sure it works well. So we're doing StreamYard only calls. It's the link is in the chat. I'm going to pin it right now too. People can find it. But if you have a comment, hit the StreamYard link. Turn on your audio. You don't have to turn on video. Some people get through and they forget to turn on the audio. We can't have you up. So you got to turn on the audio. Make sure you give permission. You don't have to turn on the video. And I'm just going to pin it in the chat so everyone sees it. There it is. It's pinned in the YouTube chat if you want to make a comment about Bederow tonight. Or the judge. And again, I'm going to put it on the screen. New people who are just showing up late. Judge Cannoni has denied Mark Bederow to be Karen Reed's attorney. To be added. Breaking news on a late Friday afternoon. All right, we got a Scott and a Lynn. I'm going to bring up Scott first. He's got his mic on. Lynn's got her mic on too, which is great. Scott was here like a split second before Lynn, so I'm going to go with Scott first, and then we'll bring up Lynn. Scott, what do you think about this whole thing, this ruling today?
I had a feeling that Bev was going to deny Mark Bederow's entrance into this case on Karen Reed's team because obviously Mark Bederow is representing Aiden Carney, And you can see that Brennan is trying to drag the Aidan Carney case into the Karen Reed case to try to show there's collusion. Aidan Carney is out there in the public with his reporting, trying to, mess up the state's case. Even though they try to indict Karen Reed and Aidan Carney for being in cahoots with each other. Do you remember that? And they were, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I muted myself for a second. Yeah, they were co-defendants in that indictment they didn't get. Yeah.
Yeah, so when they arrested Aidan Carney, under that ruse with the fake victim and, try to get him jailed, and then they got Karen Reed's phones again, and they were trying to connect Aidan with Karen for some kind of, conspiracy or whatever. So so Bev always, she's like an eel. She can go through the slightest crack, the slightest legal crack. She can say, well, these cases are conflicted. Attorney Bederow is, Aidan's attorney. So we can't have him being also another attorney on Karen Reed's defense team. So that's her excuse to, deny Mark Bederow's Pro Hoc VJ into Karen Reed's defense team. But meanwhile, Hanky Panky Brennan is up there the other day, and he's trying to drag everything about the Turtle Boy case into the Karen Reed case because he wants to taint the jury. He wants the jury to think, hey, this Karen Reed is, really sneaky. She has this crazy reporter out on the streets besmirching the state police, the trial court, the DA, this Turtle Boy bad man. You know what I mean? But meanwhile, you have Bev saying, no, Mark Bederow can't be an added attorney onto Karen Reed's defense team, where Bev's trying to separate the two cases. Hanky Panky Brennan is trying to put the two cases together. So they speak out of both sides of their mouths.
Yeah, she's so full of it too, because Bev in the first trial said she wasn't gonna allow that stuff, and then she did allow it, and now she's just let Brennan go whole hog on it. Like, he's gonna be all about that now. He's even tried to seize his phones, and so it just Bev is ridiculous. I always say she's a school teacher who lost control of her classroom.
Well, I mean, if people scroll back to the beginning of the live chat when you opened the show up, I'm like, hey, I'm finally justified. I remember being on the court steps in July of 2023 and telling Free Karen Reed people I'm meeting boots on the ground for the first time that we're in trouble. This is Judge Beverly Cannoni, one of the worst judges in Massachusetts. She's deeply tied to Morrissey. I'm going to guarantee you she's going to be the judge for this trial. We could have any other judge in that county. The last judge in the world we want on this case is Judge Beverly Cannoni. And my newly met fellow Free Karen Reed people were looking at me like I was nuts. Like, what is this? Who is this guy and what is he talking about? Well, as I stand here today, at this very moment, I think most people that follow this case and most people that are Free Karen Reed fully understand what I was talking about back in 2023. Bev's genesis, where she came from, her ties to Morrissey back in Quincy, when she went to law school and eventually became a public defender circa 1985. Most of her years as a public defender in Quincy District Court, ironically, Michael Morrissey's hometown and epicenter of power. And then in 2008, when Michael Morrissey is a state senator in the state house, he gets her nominated for judgeship. And then early in 2009, then sitting Governor Deval Patrick, through Michael Morrissey's political power, makes her a judge. And she's a horrible judge. She likes to play liberal, pro-defense judge. That's her hobby. We saw the Michael Chesna trial and how awful she was in that case. A mistrial. Took 2 trials to convict Emmanuel Lopes. That's all because Bev was playing her little hobby of liberal activist judge. But now we get to this case where Bev has to save Michael Morrissey's ass no matter what. When she was asked to recuse herself in August by Karen Reed's defense team, bury him under Auntie Bev's cottage and all that stuff, Bev took a 15-minute recess and went into her chambers. I imagine, I can't prove it, this is my opinion, that Michael Morrissey called her and said, Bev, you own this. You owe me your whole career. You're going down for this if I go down, so you're doing this trial, Bev, no matter what. So here we are now today, where Bev is painted into a corner. If Michael Morrissey has burner phones and his cheesy banana email account, her burner phone's blowing up.
Cheesy banana email accounts. That's what Michael Morrissey has. He's got these burner cheesy banana. I mean, that is so embarrassing. Why isn't the media running with that? Again, they're all asleep at the switch. It's unbelievable.
The mainstream media,
every story.
The mainstream media is just propaganda for the mono party that runs the state. I mean, we were in front of court yesterday. Our favorite channel, WCVB 5 Boston, is out there, and we're just ragging them. Like, obviously you're pro Michael Morrissey. You're legal advisor on your channel. Greg Henning is Brian Albert's attorney. So WCVB 5 couldn't be the most biased example of mainstream media news, and why my black-pilled view of government and how I look at all mainstream media as just propaganda outlets for the government. I purport to you that my premier example is WCVB 5 Boston.
Yeah.
And all the rest are not any better.
Yeah. And Greg Henning just isn't Brian Albert's attorney. He's the guy that ran in the DA race, district attorney's race, and was the favorite by the media from the outset. And also the favorite of the Boston police, the cops. The cops every cop gave him a donation. So he's the guy that institutional power selected. Rachel Rollins somehow beat him, which was not expected.
Right.
Greg Henning was the front runner in that race. And the reason why is because the cops all wrote checks to him. So it's not just Brian Albert. It's the whole institution.
Believe me, I understand. I've had people.
Sure the audience does. I want to make sure I know you do, but I want to make sure the audience gets that too. Like Greg Henning, this guy collects money from police every single day. That's who was funding his campaign. He represents them in court. If you get in trouble, you call attorney Greg Henning. I mean, that's the game here. And it's like, that's who Channel 5 picks to cover police corruption. They pick the cop lawyer. I mean,
well, I'm laughing because, my black pill, darkest cup of black tea you ever tasted view of government and corruption that's been going on in Massachusetts, I say for decades or longer, isn't everybody's cup of tea, because especially if they're registered Democrats or more liberal than me. I don't consider myself a right-wing MAGA like nutto. I'm kind of a constitutional centrist. And we could have these same problems going on if Massachusetts was all red. We could have a southern state where everybody in office is, Republican or whatever. You could have the same. You could have the same corruption going on. So I'm not calling out Democrats specifically.
If you go to Florida, it's mostly Republicans, even though it's kind of a purple state. It's mostly Republicans in office, and most of the political corruption down there is Republicans. And that's just the way most states are a one-party state. Most states are either all Democrats or all Republicans. It's the way it goes. So
yeah, imagine Massachusetts somehow inversed, where you have legacy Republicans that have run the state. They're rubber stamped into office. All their political appointees, elected DAs, judges are appointed by the governor. So if you rolled the clock back 100 years and Massachusetts was all Republican, and you fast forwarded to today, the inverse video of what's going on, we could have all Republicans in office, and we could have the same exact scenario taking place right before our eyes.
Definitely. I want to thank you. This is Scott McGinnis. He's one of our moderators. I really appreciate you calling in today, Scott.
All right, we'll see you.
All right. And you're one
Bye.
of the biggest standout people. Thank you so much for doing everything that you do, Scott.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. We're going to go to M from Michigan now. Scott is great. He's people know him. He's at every standout. We love Scott. Yeah. Yeah, Scott, you rock. Let's bring up M from Michigan. I'm going to make it shorter callers. Scott, we gave more time because we love Scott. He's the local guy. He's got a lot to say. I'm trying to keep this a shorter show. So the next callers aren't going to probably get as much time as Scott got. So just let's try to make some quick comments and then we can play the Bederow video. Again, M from Michigan. Let's bring her up. M, how you doing?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Mike, I'm pissed. I am really pissed. And I don't get pissed about this that much, but I'm pissed. To deny Bederow is just ridiculous. Bev is playing games. She's mad because of the motion to dismiss and everything being accused of. You saw her right out of the gate be defensive. And there is no reason why Bederow should not have been admitted. Pro Hoc Vice. I'm pissed. I'm done. Brennan, I don't care what Karen's lawyers do. I honestly hope they go scorched earth. I do not care. Play the games right back. Come on. Give it to them. Be short, be succinct, get your points across, and just go scorched earth. I'm done. I do not care anymore. I free Karen Reed. I live in Michigan, and for me to have been following this for the past 3 years since it happened, I am disgusted with the corruption going on, and I feel so bad for the residents and people that live in the state of Massachusetts. You have all my good vibes, everything, and I only hope AJ, Alessi, Yannetti, and Little go scorched earth. Thank you, Mike, and keep up the good work.
For caller, thank you so much. Please call again, M from Michigan. I really appreciate your call. We also have Lynn. She's in the green room. I'm going to bring up Lynn right now. She's been waiting for a while. Lynn, what do you have for us today? Are you still there, Lynn? I see your mic is on. Or we're not hearing you right now, Lynn. We're trying, Lynn. I'm sorry. Maybe you aren't connected on the audio. It shows you are, but you're apparently not. She just dropped off. Okay. I think that's it for now. Unless someone else wants to call, it's linked in the top of the chat right now, pinned at the top of the chat. Our StreamYard link. If you want to make a call, you don't have to show yourself. You can just do audio. Let's try Lynn again. Hey, Lynn, how you doing tonight?
Hello, am I here now?
Yeah, we can hear you. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm good. I'm really upset calling from Scotland. I'm really upset about this decision. I've been following the Karen Reid case for a while now. I'm not going to go into the background. Obviously, you want short calls. I think this just blatantly demonstrates how biased Bev is. There's been very obvious suggestions for some time, ongoing sighs during as she's listening to testimony, asking the Commonwealth if they would like to object. It's always been there, but a bit more subtle. Now, as Spanky has come onto the case, which utterly baffles me, it's just getting more and more and more obvious. She's not even trying to hide it anymore. She really just doesn't care. It worries me, and especially with the sorts of people she's allowing to come in to be witnesses, whether it's for rebuttal or not. it just makes me think there's very much a plan in action here to do everything and anything that they can to get a conviction.
It sure does seem organized, doesn't it?
It's I don't know how they can even pretend to deny it anymore. Brennan is just, the man is just an utter sleaze. I can barely look at a screen when he's on it. It just, everything. I'm torn between the hackles at the back of my neck rising and wanting to vomit. Everything about the man, everything. He's, oh, it's a definition of a bad lawyer. It really is the dictionary definition. It should be his picture, either there or at the end of a target. Even while Bev is still in there, I listened to a few other streamers, Melanie, Emily D. Baker, Turtle Boy, obviously, quite a few. And I think it was Emily D. Baker is one of the many who's already said, if there is any sort of, I'm forgetting the word, basically she should have recused herself if there's any impropriety, but not even actual impropriety. If there was the hint of impropriety, you have to, not just want to, you have to recuse yourself. There's no choice about it, or there shouldn't be, if you are actually a legitimate member of this judicial society, if you are going to truly represent your area, the Commonwealth, in a true professional, honest manner, where someone can have a totally fair trial. It is unbelievable. And lots of people have holiday homes. Lots of people are called Bev. How many of them have a holiday home and are called Bev and have a husband called Frank and take payments from people who are related to this trial? It was the Sherlock Holmes things. Once you take away everything, no matter the answer, no matter how improper, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not getting it right, but that's the answer. Well, that's the answer. I think what's happening with Hank Brennan, to me, there's a lot of anger. Nobody can miss, regardless of what he may say or may deny. He's hinting at it a lot, the stuff with Aidan. He's seen this happening. He knows the support that Karen Reid has deservedly is absolutely overwhelming. The stuff that the trolls are saying is nonsensical. I actually pity so many of these people. You think, what has gone wrong that you're believing this? I'm a nurse. And sometimes I look at them and think, you need a diagnosis. You need medication. Yeah, you need to speak to somebody with a diploma.
Yep.
And just you need to somebody sit and I don't know, give you a hug. There's
something
some
missing.
of them
Desperately
something
need a hug.
fundamental is quite wrong if you have to jump so eagerly into this level of hatred. And even if you don't agree with someone, again, I think people seem to forget it's not even so much that it's not even now such a disagreement. The hatred of it is so predominant. It's absolutely awful. So that it's not even a question that I don't think this or this is my opinion on it and here's why. There is no consideration that these are actual facts. It's not just an opinion. It's not plucked out of thin air. This is how it is. We have had experts, we've had crash studies, we've had ARCA, we've had, I forget her name. The doctor, the wonder doctor, who was marvellous. Dr. Russell, thank you. Everybody, these people, their credentials, their experience, their qualifications, there is nothing in any way, shape or form that you couldn't say these people know what they're talking about. And yet they are discounted and demonised in the worst possible way. It is appalling. It is absolutely appalling.
Thank you, Lynn. I do have a couple more callers.
I know
I
I've
want to
taken
try to
up
get on,
loads of
but
your
before I let
time.
you go, I want to ask two quick questions.
Yes.
Do you think Bederow, if they can appeal, should appeal? And do you think that Judge Bev should not be making decisions like this for Karen Reid?
I don't think she should be. I think it should, if it can be done through another judge, I think they should be doing it. I think she's way too close to it in far too many ways, whether that's bias, corruption, or whatever. And if they can appeal it, yes, get the appeal done now. Be at the court door with it waiting for them at 8:59. Just hand it over to her. There it is. Deal with it. Fix it. This is a mistake. Fix your mistake. At least try to be honest about what you're doing with this case.
Thank you so much, Lynn. I think you're the first Scottish nurse to call in.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Fantastic show. I love it. I look
Thank you.
forward
Please,
to looking into it more.
yeah, please call again. Thank you so
I
much,
will.
Lynn.
Thank you. Bye.
Awesome. Bye now. It was a good call. People liked her accent. I also have Rainey here. Rainey liked the weather. You've been waiting for a while. I lost a couple callers there. If they want to call back, I'll try to get them in too. Rainey liked the weather. What are you there? Can you hear
Yes,
us
sir.
right now?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yes. I haven't been waiting that long. I wanted to throw a little bit of perspective in here. I am pro Karen Reed. I think that the Commonwealth has been despicable, but I think there's one thing that I haven't heard everything that all the callers said, so I don't know if this has been covered. But Laura, I was watching his coverage on this, and he brought up a point that was interesting to me, and that is that if something comes across in discovery that they're not allowed to share, that's been whatever, but it also has something that's beneficial to Aiden, that is a big conflict for Mark Bederow, because he can't share crucial material because of his relationship with Karen Reed. And that, I think, I don't know that that's why Canoni.
Let me ask you this.
I don't know if that's why.
Let me just bring this back to you, because what you're saying
Sure.
to me doesn't make sense, because let's just put it out there. If he's not Karen's attorney, he doesn't get access to that, right?
No, I'm saying if he is Karen's attorney and Aiden's attorney, if she had approved it.
But let's say he's not, though.
Right.
So he's not getting the info, so he can't share what he gets from Karen to Aiden, right? Right.
Sure.
So now let's go to the next scenario. He's the attorney for both.
Mm-hmm.
What changes?
Well, so like, say something comes, a new piece of discovery comes up, and it is either exculpatory or helps Aiden's case, but they're not allowed to share it with anybody. If there's some kind of what do they call it? What do they call it's sealed, and they're not supposed to disseminate to anybody.
She's putting a seal on them anyways from seeking anyone.
Right.
So
but
do you see what I'm saying though?
Well, but I'm saying
that this is already in effect. Like, this is already going to be in effect. So what difference does it make?
Because then he can't share crucial information with his other client. That puts him in a position where he either has to break the rules to give Aiden the info, or he has to keep info from it.
But they're already saying that he's not going to get the info. Do you see what I'm saying though?
Right. So either way, it puts him in a position where
can he? Do you see what I'm saying?
Well,
they're
doing like lawyer, hypotheticals
that aren't going to exist.
If he's her lawyer, he will get the info.
Well, they're saying they won't give him info that has to do with Aiden.
Oh, necessarily heard, but the likelihood of him not. I don't know. I don't know how that would work.
Even that rule is stupid too, because these two have they're co-defendants, even if they're not called co-defendants.
I get
What's
that.
good for Aiden is good for Karen.
And I think that the prosecution, the Commonwealth and Canoni the prosecution and the Commonwealth have been despicable. Canoni, I think, has made some very bad judgments.
This is one of them. But I'm trying
to also. I've been back and forth with Kevin Lanahan. Back and forth with him, trying to get him to see reason, which isn't happening. But
let me stop you right there too, Rainey. Let me ask you another question. Think about this. What business is it of Beverly Canoni to make sure things are okay for Aiden Carney?
Well, no, it's that
he's hurting Karen Reed
because
not letting Mark Bederow be in there as a free attorney is hurting Karen Reed. So why is she trying to protect Aiden? Like, that's not in her jurisdiction.
it is her job to make sure that she's not willingly putting a lawyer in a position to create a conflict as well. And again, I'm not saying that that's the reason she did all this. That's the reason she used.
Yeah, she's
And
using it, but in
she
reality,
and had Brennan never even spoke up or said what he said in court, she probably would have rubber stamped it and gone about her way. But he
definitely.
gave her an out. He gave her an out. And that's where my problem is with this. But I have been talking with Kevin, and I've, he's always talking about how like logic
I'm gonna
and
stop you
blah blah blah.
there. I don't
And
care
yeah,
what Kevin. I
well,
listen. I don't
well,
want to talk about Kevin. I
sir,
appreciate your call.
I'm only
Thank you
saying
for
that to say
calling
this.
tonight, Randy.
Okay.
Have a good night. Yeah, I'm not interested in talking about Kevin. I'm talking about Bev Canone, and I appreciate the call. It was a good call. You made some good points, but we want to move on. I had a question here. Someone said, "In what case are they co-defendants?" They aren't. They are not technically co-defendants, but the state tried to make them co-defendants. The state indicted them both together as co-defendants, tried to, and actually failed in that matter. And basically, what I'm saying is what's good for Aiden is good for Karen. What's good for Karen is good for Aiden in both these cases. Make no mistake about it. They may not technically be co defendants, but they might as well be. Both defense teams are acting like it. Those defense teams are working together. I know that for a fact. So, all of this is all hypothetical BS. Like Rainey said, Rainey's right on that. It's she's using that to cut to deny him. But in reality, come on. Come on. This is all ridiculous. This is all ridiculous bullshit. Just reading a couple comments here. Yeah, that's exactly why I don't want to talk about what Kevin's saying. Kevin's got a show that no one really watches. Like I used to go after Kevin a lot. It was fun, but it's like it's run its course. It's like whatever Kevin is saying on the show is not relevant. None of it is. And people going back and forth with him. It's like I don't care what you're trying to talk to Kevin about. I just don't at this point. We're way beyond that. We're talking about Pinone and we're talking about Bederow tonight. All right, you know what I want to do? I just want to end the show. Before I end the show, I'm not going to end the show yet. We're gonna keep this going for a while, actually. But I want to read a couple super chats right now. Here's one from Cam. Cam's up 999 said conflicts could be worked through. Mass has criminal procedure that is contrary to the nation. It is not waivable in all states unless lawyer is trying to work for codes. Bev ruled correct, not appealable. Probably not appealable because Massachusetts is so messed up. But I think what you said in the very beginning is the best part of this. Conflicts can be worked through. This could have been worked through. I really think it could have been. But she's not interested in that. She's trying to penalize Karen Reed. That's the bottom line too. That's the most important factor that should be taken into account. Is this going to hurt Karen Reed? And yes, it does. Not having Bederow hurts Karen Reed. Make no doubt about it. It's always like the state interest, or in this case, Aiden's interest. Everything else is trumping Karen Reed's interest when Bev Canone rules, which is so backwards to me. Texas Prime says, is there a way a neutral party, someone from Texas, could pay for a page in a Boston newspaper about all of this to be revealed? I saw this in Florida about Scientology exposing bad conduct. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe someone wants to talk to Nick Rocco about that, do a fundraiser. I mean, I think we should try to embarrass this judge as much as possible. We have to put a front page ad in the Boston Globe, so be it. Why not? It's a good idea. Maybe you should work on that, Texas. The problem is the trust factor because you probably want to crowdsource it, and people want to make sure that they trust who they're sending money to. There's a lot of scammers out there. So yeah, it would probably be best to be funded by one person or organized by somebody like Nick Rocco that people already trust in the community. But it's a good idea, definitely. Someone who has the time to do it. And I'd also make sure that you are checking in with the defense teams. You want to make sure that you're doing the right thing, saying the right things. That billboard. We already have a billboard for Karen, but maybe we need a billboard on Judge Canoni. Jesus Christ. And I hope no one's mad on the phone calls. I tried to keep them short. I did cut people off a little bit, but I'm just trying to keep it short and get to the next part for the audience, and also keep it concise tonight and try to let all the callers in that we could get in. I also want to end the show, like I said, by playing the very first time that Mark Bederow appeared on the Young Jerks. He came on over 50 times. And I'm sure he'll be back here again. I don't know if it's going to be sooner rather than later. I know no more than you. But let's go back to when this all started for Mark Bederow. And let's play the video, and let's end the show that way tonight. Let's play. It's like 2 hours. 1 hour, it's less than an hour and 30 minutes. So we're going to play that whole episode right now. I can get it up. Hold on one second. Do you want to see when Bederow came on the show? And my background looked a lot different then. There may be even some beeping going on in the background. That we have. So let's just bring them up. Mazza Media, what's up, brother?
Good evening, Mike. Thanks for having me back once again. It's once again been an eventful week so far.
So much to talk about. So little time.
Yeah,
a little more.
Sure.
But trying to keep up.
Right, exactly. I have to spend like 2 or 3 hours every evening catching up and making sure I'm on top of everything, so I'm up to pace with everything. And really eventful again today, and there was no shortage of anything that wasn't notable today or yesterday for that matter. So it's going to be, we're getting ready for a busy upcoming few weeks here, and it's already ramping up for sure. So,
and we may not get to all of it tonight because we have an attorney that we want to speak to, and I know that he's not aware of every detail in this case. So, for people that are going to be commenting tonight and watching, please consider that he's going to talk about the generalities. I guess that's, how do you say that word, Mazza?
generality.
Yeah, generality.
Yeah.
I have to slow down. Generality.
Yeah.
But he's going to be talking about a lot about the prosecution and probably about Wendy Murphy. He's been going after her, which is quite entertaining. This is a criminal defense attorney in New York that we have tonight. He's also been an assistant DA, so he's been on both sides. And I've had a lot of criminal defense attorneys on this show. We actually were sponsored at one point by one. I love them. They're always great guests to have, great speakers. They have stories. So let's bring him up, Attorney Mark Bederow. I hope I said his name right. Hello, sir.
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I've been practicing criminal law for 25 years in New York. I started my career as a assistant district attorney in Manhattan. And after about 5.5, 6 years since then, I've been in private practice doing criminal defense at all levels, ranging from petty crimes to complicated homicides and white collar and everything in between.
And you've recently been commenting on both the prosecution for the Karen Reed case and this attorney that we're going to talk about, Wendy Murphy. Tell us about how you that kind of piqued your radar and what you've been posting about.
I live in New York, but I'm from Massachusetts, so I certainly follow news, read the Boston Globe sports page, and sometimes creep over to other things, and certainly am familiar with the Karen Reed case on some level, just because it's interesting. I do this for a living, and it's close to home, so I do have some working knowledge of that. And of course, in just scrolling around Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it these days, seeing some of the commentary on this case has just been mind-blowing. in particular from this attorney, so they say, Wendy Murphy. When the other day I just came across a series of tweets from her that just struck me as so ridiculous and frankly hard to believe, given that she self-styles herself a constitutional law and civil rights expert and a former prosecutor. I can't believe that. I'm not saying it's not true, literally, but I just can't fathom it to be true, given on how stupid some of these comments are, and frankly, how little regard she appears to have for due process as a former prosecutor and practicing attorney. And she seems to be more into gaslighting than actually providing legal advice or expertise on any of this stuff. So,
Right. Her whole plot. It's funny because Turtle Boy exposed a lot about her recently, that she is all 100% pro bono, and getting on TV is like the full-time job that doesn't pay. Are you surprised that they still put her up on court TV?
it's another one of these examples. It's hard to fathom. You wonder what they're doing. I mean, Court TV has a quite a stable of competent legal experts. They cover a lot of important things. Excuse me. And one would think that they could find somebody who actually practices criminal law, understands the issues, has a respect for due process, has respect for, a defendant's right to a presumption of innocence. And perhaps more importantly, as an attorney, what's your most important asset? Credibility. And when it comes to this Wendy Murphy, her credibility is destroyed in two simple words: Duke and lacrosse. I mean, at that point, how anyone would put her on TV, given her disgraceful defense of that prosecution, the accuser, and the district attorney, who ironically is the only individual who went to jail in connection with that case, was the district attorney. And of course, the accuser is currently in North Carolina prison for murder, amongst other things. But it is unbelievable that Court TV would have someone like that on, and perhaps they just haven't done their due diligence, because she adds nothing, doesn't know what she's talking about, and has no credibility.
And she's also been, my reporting shows that she's been sanctioned in, I believe, West Virginia. And we were the first, as far as I know, to like put that out and report it. And I asked her about it, and she blocked me.
Well, I've been blocked too, for simply trying to respond to what, providing actual analysis to her nonsense, as I said, gaslighting. And she's also profoundly nasty in her give and take with people. Everyone, I mean, you talk about unable to read the room. Everyone is an idiot, a moron, a liar, a dope, doesn't understand. And she knows, of course, what she's talking about. And I'm sure, you can get into some of these series of tweets in specific. We can break them down. But again, her analysis, it's not legal analysis. It's just wrong. It's stupid. She's been on bad legal takes. Shocking. I just, as a practicing attorneys, a lot of people don't like them. She is just awful for this profession. She has just no credibility, has no business commenting on this case as an expert. She certainly has every right to comment as any other person, but she tries to exploit her resume to come off as some kind of expert and mock the so-called unwashed people who have the temerity to actually believe in the presumption of innocence and state, as it stands now, that, Karen Reed just might actually be innocent. Oh my God, what a radical theory.
Right. We can talk about that too. I definitely do want to talk about that. But while we're talking about Wendy Murphy, she made these statements, like this statement here, talking about that Karen Reed would have to plead the fifth.
That's one of many. I think the one that I see on the screen now is, this one is the first one that I saw and just could not contain myself. And again, no clue who this person was, but in her bio, again, I can't emphasize enough, she's telling people, I am a constitutional and civil rights expert. Who, if not a constitutional expert and civil rights expert, should not have great respect and understanding for a defendant's right to due process, the presumption of innocence, prosecution behaving properly, understanding all of their obligations and fairness to the defense, including the disclosure of exculpatory evidence, not making a mess with public statements that a prosecutor shouldn't be making, those sort of things. And instead, she's out there tweeting that, you know, the public has every right and in fact should presume her guilty. That is just dumber than dumb and disgraceful for anyone who calls themselves a lawyer to say. I'm aware, based on looking at some other stuff that she wrote before I got blocked, that, you know, this person who also, again, a constitutional and civil rights attorney, and also someone who apparently espouses for victims' rights, women in particular, is someone who claims that she, you know, represents the rights of women who have been sexually assaulted and whatnot. She posts a series of tweets essentially wishing sexual assault on Karen Read if in the event she's convicted. Anybody who takes this woman seriously shouldn't. She is a joke. She is a clown and a complete disgrace to the profession.
Yeah. I mean, it's very true. It's no, go ahead.
No, I don't know what else to say. And her immediate response to me, again, this is somebody I don't know, was that I'm an idiot, a moron, a liar, a this, a that, and, you know, and then she, you know, she hits and runs. So she's also a coward, because, you know, if she wants to go lawyer to lawyer and have an exchange of ideas in any kind of debate, what civilized, normal lawyers do is argue respectfully, make your points, and, you know, somebody may be right, somebody may be wrong. There may be some in between. Some of the people publicly may agree or disagree. But what this coward does is make these idiotic statements when she gets criticized, call everybody stupid and dumb, and then, you know, run out of town and get offline. That is just pathetic. And for a lawyer to do that tells you that, you know, she's very thin-skinned, obviously. And again, I can't fathom her actually practicing in a courtroom as a prosecutor, which, you know, something else, given the views that she has, and that if she was in fact a former prosecutor, God only knows, you know, if you were a defendant being prosecuted by a prosecutor with those views, that's frightening.
Yes, absolutely. I can't imagine her being a prosecutor. I just can't. It'd be horrible. Her son tries to act like a prosecutor in some instances we've found. Mazamita, do you have any comment on any of this tonight?
Yes, I can also join the party by saying that I've also been blocked by Wendy Murphy as well. I made some post about her probably about 4 or 5 months ago, and our buddy Dave had tagged her in the post, and then she just came back and like blocked me a couple minutes later. But to me, the most crazy interview I ever saw with her was Surviving the Survivor last maybe August or September of last year, when she was on there with Turtle Boy and a few other folks, and she's just screaming and yelling like a lunatic. There's like 4 or 5 people on this, you know, show with the host and everything. And finally, the host just puts her on mute, and you see her on camera. She's still screaming and yelling at the camera. It's
the hands. She's going like
yeah,
this, yelling,
yeah.
ah!
Leave the
But you
damn
couldn't
dog alone.
yeah. And then you
Oh,
shut
my
her
goodness.
off. You couldn't hear her volume. You just saw her just like a baby. It was crazy.
You know, you know, there's obviously a lot of public debate over Karen Read, and you know, there's people who are very into this with very strong feelings on both sides, and, you know, whatever. I prefer to take the more, again, lawyerly view of she's presumed innocent, and, you know, whatever happens, but I don't think she'll get convicted, by the way, just because I think there's reasonable doubt all over the place.
Yes.
I'm not getting into, I don't know if she's innocent or guilty, but lawyers talk about guilt and not guilty, not necessarily innocence. But what I haven't seen, and again, I'm not the expert in studying Twitter 17 hours a day, looking at everyone's posts, but, you know, the other vocal advocates who want to believe or do believe that Karen Read is guilty, they ought to come out and disown this lunatic. because she's not helping the cause. She comes off as an unhinged lunatic who, again, has a law degree, and that somehow gives you added credibility, which it might when you're analyzing cases that, you know, you're supposedly involved in the profession. But when you see what her analysis is, you know, I believe that my 14-year-old son would provide better legal commentary than she does. It's truly unbelievable.
You know, the thing is, I think they don't have any other options though, because if you look at their crew of people who are think that Karen Reed is guilty, their whole crew is like, I mean, I don't want to pick on them, but they're not the best people. Like Wendy and Coffindaffer are like the best that they can come up with, and they're like, right? Am I right, Massa?
Oh, you're 100% correct.
Well,
That was so well said. Yeah. I love
One
it.
of the things too, again, I'm not the expert on this, but don't understand is why is this, you know, kind of gadfly, clueless attorney? What is her stake in this? Why is she so off the rails,
Exactly.
demanding that this woman be burned at the stake before she has a trial, and literally advocating that the public can and should believe she's guilty? They should believe that if she doesn't testify on her own behalf, that she's absolutely guilty. Why is she so invested in this? I mean, she's even running around making statements, just, you know, that if she doesn't invoke the Fifth Amendment, then, you know, she's clearly guilty, and then she runs the risk of the prosecution calling her as a witness. That there isn't a word. Whatever comes after dumb is what that is, and I don't even know what the word
Even
is.
I know that. Like, come on.
And again, you have
You're
to view
defended.
this.
You don't have to
have to-
speak. You
You've
have the
got
right to remain silent, right?
Of course. But you have to view this from the lens that she's coming at this as a former prosecutor, allegedly, a constitutional expert and civil rights expert, saying she better invoke her Fifth. In other words, in Wendy world, she believes, apparently, that a criminal defendant would literally have to be called as a witness and say, "Your Honor, I refuse to answer questions on the grounds that anything I say may tend to incriminate myself." That if that were to ever happen in a court of law, even in Wendy world, wherever she might actually practice, any appellate court would reverse a conviction in 3 minutes based upon that alone. That would be the end of it. And then when she adds to the crazy with crazier and suggests that, you know, if she doesn't invoke, then the prosecution will call her. I mean, what she's literally suggesting is that the DA in Norfolk County or wherever would get up and say, you know, the prosecution calls Karen Reed. This is, again, children know that this is not how this works. And we're supposed to believe that this former prosecutor doesn't. So I don't know if she's just dumb, if she's overly gaslighting, if she's just a fraud, who knows? But anyone who gives her a forum to speak, when you consider that, you consider the Duke lacrosse that we talked about, you reference that she's probably been sanctioned for lying. You know, it's not a good look for court TV, and it's not a good look for the law school where she claims to teach as well. That's also shocking.
It is. I wonder if she's still teaching there, or, you know, it seemed like there wasn't enough enrollment for her on some semesters. That's what Turtle Boy showed, that she wasn't even making money there.
Oh, I mean, who would pay to listen to this?
Exactly.
When you can listen to the entertainment for free on X. From
You've coined a new term. Mazza Media noticed this. Wendy World. We love
Wendy
this
World.
Wendy World.
Wendy world. I like it.
is, you know, it's it makes my brain hurt. Reading her analysis, as I was telling a friend of mine, it actually makes my head hurt, because it's just so profoundly wrong and stupid. And she will double down, and go down with the ship, and she'll gaslight. I don't know what else it is. She'll come back and say, "You're an idiot. Where do you know you work? You went to law school." This is like a clown show of clown shows, and I can't, even if you think Karen Reed is guilty, I don't think you should think that before you've heard any evidence, because contrary to the Wendy World School of Law, you should wait until evidence is presented in a courtroom. You should be open-minded. But even if you are inclined to think, well, she must have done this, she must have done that, you need to be credible. And the way to be credible is to say, Wendy Murphy is a clown with no credibility, and she doesn't speak for me. She doesn't speak for us. And, to use logic and facts, and for the love of God, find another so-called expert to help your cause, because this ain't her.
Absolutely. I mean, I that's the thing about her and her son, who's another leader of the anti, and some of these other folks. I say it's like the best thing ever that they're the ones that are leading it. It's like but you said something.
I'm sorry. I don't mean, can I get back to something? I think I kind of got off point and never know if you guys had any theory or answer. Why is she so invested in this to the point of clowning herself and destroying what little is left of her credibility after Duke Lacrosse? I mean, what is there any understanding of why she is doing this?
This is totally a guess, but this is my opinion, knowing her grift. She occasionally represents the worst, the victims of like the worst crimes.
Okay.
And children, and she's done that type of work. So I
Nothing
think that
wrong with that.
exactly. And I think this is about her currying favor with law enforcement so that they go after the real bad guys for her. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I feel like in
So
her
the
political
hill to die on is
connections.
Karen Reed. That's her hill to die on.
Yeah, she
step
doesn't
up
care
the
about
law
Karen
enforcement.
Reed. Karen Reed's not someone she's helping.
But I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's what
also-
I think. And I also think she hates Turtle Boy. I think that it's also a lot that she hates Turtle Boy.
Boy, that guy has a great talent to just drive them crazy,
Yeah.
get under their skin, and make
Yeah.
people twist themselves into knots. He does good work.
Yeah. And she just seems to start fights with everyone too. Like I've noticed, because I've been a lot involved in a lot of politics, and especially with some of the more progressive Democrats. I noticed she goes after them. Like the people that are actually at the forefront of her causes, she attacks. Like, you know what I mean? Like Diana DeZoglio, who is the Massachusetts auditor right now. Something bad happened to her, like sexually, I think, a sexual assault at the State House. And she's been fighting. And you think Wendy would be supporting her? I see her go after her on Twitter. Like, that's the type of person Wendy is. She just, something's not right.
There is a nastiness and what I can only assume is an element of misery and projecting that misery on others, and being a keyboard warrior and all that goes with that. It in some ways it's sad, but she's doing real harm. I mean, she's going after people, and there may be people who may not know her background and see that she's a so-called expert and opines on these things, and there could be people who get influenced by this. So in that sense, she's dangerous, and to run around telling people it's your obligation to find Karen Reed in your mind guilty. This is just stupid. I mean, again, I'm repeating myself, but she needs to be rejected. She needs to be pushed aside and put, at the little kids' table and the island of the misfit toys. She's just not a serious person. She's not a serious lawyer, and she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. She really should go away in terms of opining as an expert.
I wanted to ask you, she came after you,
Yeah.
saying you should be like sanctioned or something.
Right,
She's
right.
also come after the defense team of Karen Reed, saying that they should be sanctioned with the BBO.
Right.
I mean, what do you think about that? Like she goes after the defense of Karen Reed. Is Karen Reed, as far as you see, like looking on the outside from your legal expertise, do you think Karen Reed's team is doing a good job defending her?
I think they're doing an outstanding job defending her. Okay. They are vigorously and zealously representing their client as they are supposed to do. They are conducting their own vigorous defense. They have, again, I don't want to go by just media reports. I mean, I'm willing to listen to evidence and draw a conclusion, but based on what is out there, based on some of the things that they've exposed and learned, they appear to have poked many, many holes in the prosecution's case. And again, the goal of the exercise from a lawyer's perspective is reasonable doubt. Now, of course, every lawyer wants to establish actual innocence, but that's not the goal of the legal exercise. In theory, you could think that Karen Reed probably did it, but I don't know that that there's a plausible excuse that she didn't. Well, that's not guilty. And these are skilled lawyers. And I mean, it seems that they're well on their way to poking those kinds of holes. And for all you know, may very well get to that feeling that lawyers love, which is convincing people that someone is actually innocent. But whether they do or they don't, I think they're doing a spectacular job. And the idea of them being criticized by some hack who doesn't know what she's talking about and just says things again that non-lawyers would know is not the case. I'm sure the lawyers do, her lawyers do what I do, just laugh at it. I mean, her response to me in basically saying that you have no respect for due process, and it's just legally speaking, one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, was you're an idiot. And when this continued with a lawyer to lawyer, in theory, dialogue about what's going on, it turned into I'm a liar and I should be sanctioned. And, I mean, how do I feel about that? I laugh. My only regret is it took her 4 or 5 days to hit the block button because, for my daily entertainment, I did enjoy seeing her nonsense. But, it's, I being blocked by someone like, really, at the end of the day, again, I think she's childish, as I noted in one of my responses to her. It's petulance. I'm going to make my points, tell everyone I'm smart, you're dumb and a liar, and I don't like the answers you're making. So I'm going to call you stupid and corrupt, and before you can respond, I'm going to block you. I mean, isn't that the ultimate act of cowardice by a lawyer?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it just shows you how weak she is.
Yep.
We had a question from another attorney who comes on the show. He's an estate attorney. He wanted to ask about reasonable doubt in this case. What is that? What does reasonable doubt mean? First of all, like what does that mean, and how does that look for this case with Karen Reed?
It means if you doubt based on the evidence, and that's the important thing. First of all, it's a concept in the courtroom. So, jurors are going to have to wash away all of what they've heard. And, that's part of the problem with picking a jury, especially, in a case like this, which certainly, in a county, not that Norfolk County is small, but, by standards of the amount of media and the amount of people in that county, and everyone has an opinion and all the press that goes with it, that can be difficult. But based upon the evidence in the courtroom, if a juror has a doubt of the defendant's guilt, and it's a doubt that is reasonable in the sense it's plausible, it's not emotional, it's not because I like someone or don't like someone, but it's a doubt for which there is evidence or an inference that I can draw based upon the evidence, that I could say I have a legitimate doubt, a reasonable doubt. It can't just be something so far off that's subjective because I want to go home or I don't like the way the defendant looks. So it really just comes down to, in layman's terms, is it plausible that she didn't do it? And by the way, that is a high burden, and which is why, based on a lot of the evidence that we've heard, one wonders why the DA is going to die on this hill as well in terms of going forward with this case. And this case, obviously, whatever the result is going to be, has problems that are unbelievable. The idea that the federal prosecutors in the District of Massachusetts are investigating the investigators, never mind again what in Wendy World and others might say that doesn't mean anything, that's no big deal. That means everything. Okay, it's not normal for the U.S. Attorney's Office to conduct a simultaneous investigation of a state prosecution of a woman for murder while the state is still prosecuting their case and hasn't brought it forth to trial. It tells you many things. It tells you there's obvious problems with the way the state prosecutors have conducted themselves in the eyes of the feds. Moreover, the fact that they're investigating now as opposed to after tells you that their concerns at the time were so great that there might have, at least at some point, been concerns with even letting this go forward. In other words, that, you know, it's not their case per se, meaning the feds, but, you know, as prosecutors, they have an obligation to make sure an injustice doesn't happen. And obviously, if Karen Read were to be convicted by state prosecutors who are, or police officers or whoever, are doing something illegal or wrong and it's material and relevant to the outcome of the state case, then, you know, that would be a reason for the feds to do this. But to be clear, this never happens. That is a red flag of red flags. But, you know, but to get back to the question, as long as there is anything that could give someone doubt for the prosecutor's case, that's reasonable doubt. So I'll give you some examples with the caveat, again, I'm not the meat and potatoes expert on the evidence. I read articles, but I don't study transcripts. And, you know, from a lawyer's perspective, you don't like to just do, you know, what Wendy does and just breeze over things and make conclusions. But for example, if there is credible evidence that there were dog bite injuries that I'm familiar with that could have caused some of this, that's a problem. If there is credible evidence, which clearly it appears there would be, the way phone records work, that, you know, one of these people that the defense is kind of raising eyebrows and pointing fingers at was making searches at 2:30 in the morning or whatever the exact time was, saying how long to die in the cold. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's troubling.
Weird.
I mean, now look,
Yeah,
I know, and I know the prosecution is, oh, well, that's not true. That was done at 6:30 or later. Well, you know what? I'm not a technical expert, but having dealt with phone records and Celebrite and whatnot and all these other companies, the fact of the matter is, if the defense has credible experts who are going to get up and say, yeah, it very well could be true, and here's why, that's a problem.
That raises doubt. I mean, that just right. Let me ask you a question too, because this came up. The defense wants to bring in the DA as a witness, and just like today, I believe we found out that they're, you know, pushing back on that. They don't. The prosecution is saying, no, you can't have the, you know, DA on the stand as a witness. Have you ever seen that where the, you know, the prosecution gets called in? And what's the judge going to do on that?
Not usually in an actual trial in front of a jury. There are times where prosecutors are called as witnesses if they have involvement in material parts of the case. So, for example, if you have one ADA who conducts an interview of a defendant, it's possible that, assuming another DA is trying the case, you know, that prosecutor could testify. In pretrial hearings, it could be very common that prosecutors testify, whether it be about statements of the defendant or if there's an allegation made about whether they were knowingly withholding, you know, alleged exculpatory evidence, that sort of thing. Now, even when that happens, is it common that the elected official, in other words, the DA, would be called as a witness? It's extraordinarily rare. It's extraordinarily even attempted because there's usually no reason to do it. I would really love to know what the defense's reason for that. Whatever that reason is, you know, the prosecution is always going to push back and say it's not appropriate. He doesn't have any relevant information. This is all part of their attempt to muck it all up. So I would really like to know what the basis for calling the DA is. Now, again, if these were pretrial hearings, I would understand it, because this DA, and I'm talking about the elected official, I mean, this guy's got issues as well. I mean, some of the things that he said in terms of press conferences and whatnot way back when, you know, under New York law, I mean, I'm not going to profess to be an expert on Massachusetts law, but most states have very similar ethical rules. So I'm going to, for purposes of this conversation, assume the same rules would apply. But for the elected official to make, whether they be video statements or just loud interviews that are recorded, and talk about the case, if that could have a possible impact to the public on the outcome of the trial and might improperly influence a jury, that's misconduct. You can't, for example, there are things you can't talk about. You can't talk about as a prosecutor publicly. You do it in the courtroom on the record. You can say that all you want, but giving press statements, you can't talk about statements a defendant made, whether you have an opinion of a defendant's guilt, what scientific tests were performed, all these kinds of things. The only time you can ever even arguably do this under the ethical rules, of which I believe would apply in Massachusetts as well, if not, I'm sure a Massachusetts lawyer will correct me, is if the other side makes a prejudicial statement and there's no other way to kind of confront the prejudice that might attach from that without pushing back, so to speak. Those aren't the legal words. That's the colloquial thing. But so, I mean, the DA has clearly done that. They appear to be very nonplussed by the fact that there is this disturbingly close relationship amongst, relatives, of, well, the police officer and people that were close to the police officer who was killed. That's highly disturbing. They fight like hell in disclosing witness statements. I had read somewhere and even commented, again, I comment more on the legal issues than the factual ones usually when I'm not that familiar with the facts, but there was this suggestion by somebody that these police officers in a case like this just don't take any notes, that, witnesses just are going to come in and, I spoke to the detectives about this high profile homicide case, but, nobody saw fit to pick up a pen and prepare a police report. These are red flags of something is wrong. Okay. Prosecutors do that when they don't want the defense to have access to prior statements and potential inconsistencies. There's no reason to do that other than that. And, they used to do this in a very troubled county in New York, in the city, and they were highly criticized for this kind of thing. But, it appears to be standard practice in Norfolk, Massachusetts.
Yeah, and some of the documentation on chain of evidence, especially around the car, like they didn't take photos, and
that's incomprehensible. And
Right.
that also, by the way, a shitty investigation, pardon my French, or an incompetent investigation, or one which makes no sense, to circle back to a prior point, that can play a great part in finding reasonable doubt. I mean, the defense, I'm sure, will call into question the integrity of the investigation, the relationships, and that sort of thing, and not just throw it out there that there are these relationships, so therefore she can't be guilty. But why didn't they take notes? Why didn't they document this? Why didn't they interview these witnesses? Why did they do these things, and tie it together? And you add it to all the other little holes that appear to be poked here and there. And, again, reasonable doubt is a very tough standard for the prosecution, and they're going to have a hell of a time getting a murder conviction in this case.
I think so. That's the whole thing. I don't see how they get there. What do you, Mazami, do you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I got a question for Mark. What do you think about this? The fact that Michael Proctor from the Massachusetts State Police said that the taillight was shattered, but yet when it's being towed away, it is intact. And not only is the taillight intact, but it's lit up.
I think I mean, look, I'll give you the obvious answer because it's the correct answer. That's a problem for the DA. I mean, another way of saying what he's saying is, 2 + 2 is 5. And I'm telling you, that's what it is. So, I mean, look, that makes no sense if what you just described is the case. That's an easy fact, by the way, for jurors to grasp and say, this doesn't make sense. And, if they don't have pictures of this so-called evidence, how could that be? I mean, if that's the case, if their theory is she backed into him, she's angry, and she just rolled over him, and then she said later, I hit him, which, by the way, that so-called admission, I don't find that powerful for a few reasons, which we can talk about in a minute. But, there ought to be a lot of evidence that's consistent with that, such as, proof of the broken taillight and other things. And, I understand the prosecution is banging the table saying we have evidence, but if the defense has, from what I read, 3 accident reconstruction experts who were hired by the feds. Again, now the feds, they're the feds. Presumably they're looking into this with, in an agnostic sense, legally speaking. We just want to know what's going on here. And if the defense has subpoenaed 3 accident reconstruction experts, and the expected belief is that they're going to look the jurors in the eyes, or at least look the jurors who can see them in the eyes, as I also read about something else about this bizarre courtroom. But all kidding aside, if the credible testimony from defense experts is that, in our opinion, expert opinion, based on years of experience in accident reconstruction, and I'm hired by the federal government, I'm hired on both sides for this and that the injuries are not consistent and the evidence is not consistent, you could say without more, that's game over for the prosecution. That could be literally reasonable doubt with not a shred of evidence more.
So many options on the reasonable doubt, it seems like. You just mentioned the courtroom. It's so many, it's weird. So many sideshows in this whole thing. And this is another one. The jury not being able to see the witnesses, being in front of them, being behind them.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Any other courtroom?
And if that courtroom is configured in that way, that's disgraceful. They need to, do something and fix that, because, again, what piqued my interest about this is another Wendy World comment, which, to circle back, because she had an opinion about this as well, that someone forwarded me because, I'm blocked. But a important fundamental constitutional right that, Professor Wendy, the expert, is familiar with, is a defendant's right of confrontation. That, that's to cross-examine, confront your accuser. More importantly, or not more importantly, but as part of that analysis, part of your right to confrontation is to assess the demeanor of the witness, right? And who needs to see more than anyone the demeanor of a witness who may be getting destroyed on cross-examination, or may be giving off body language signs that are not consistent with truth-telling? Well, the jurors, obviously. And if the defense point is that there's a few jurors who are going to be sitting in a position where they can hear what the witness is saying, but can't see, is he staring at the ground? Is he wrapped up tight, like I'm doing now? Is he doing things that would appear to make body language not consistent, with truth telling? The defense has a right to know that. So, they're concerned about that. And Professor Wendy opined that, this is just another stall tactic, bullshit motion by the defense. And what defendants do is make motions when they know their client is guilty, because they're setting up an appeal. And, she knows that they're lying, or words to that effect, because, she's been in that courtroom many times, and it's not like they describe. And that is, again, another example of just utter disregard for a defendant's fundamental right to confront witnesses. Right back to, again, she must be guilty because lawyers are doing this. Look, lawyers file motions because that's part of being a zealous advocate. No lawyer who's good at this, no matter how confident they are, assumes anything. Okay. And it's a hell of a burden for Karen Reed's lawyers. I mean, because if you represent a client that you believe is actually innocent, that's the worst burden to carry of all as a lawyer, that, my God, I have to defend someone I believe is innocent on trial for their life, who could be facing a prison sentence for the rest of their life. Any lawyer, such as these lawyers, who, again, I think are doing a spectacular job, is going to push every button to zealously represent and protect their client, both in legal procedure, protect the record during the trial, and, God forbid, after a trial, if you come in second, which you clearly don't want to do. And for her to complain that this is just, lawyers acting on behalf of a guilty client and doing this to stall, delay, and prepare for an appeal because they know she's guilty. I mean, she's just pathetic. It's just another example. But no, I've never seen a courtroom configured where jurors can't see witnesses. That is terrible. And I'm a little surprised it hasn't come up before, that prior lawyers actually didn't raise it, preserve the issue, and if clients got convicted, raise that on an appeal. I think an appellate court would be troubled by that as a violation of a Sixth Amendment right to confront witnesses against you.
It's crazy. I can't believe it too. Like that. It's never been brought up until this case, to these
Right.
attorneys.
But that's an example of them, again, doing good, solid advocacy. That's not them assuming their client is guilty, so we better, file a motion because jurors can't see. I mean, if anybody can't understand why a lawyer doesn't want jurors to be able to see, the demeanor of witnesses, I mean, that's just silly.
Now, we had a question. People come in late. They want to know what kind of lawyer you are, Mark. You're a criminal defense attorney, right?
Yes. No, as I said, I was a prosecutor in the Manhattan DA's office in New York, the law and order office, as we used to like to say back then, and then have been in private practice in Manhattan for 20 years since then. So I practice criminal law. And when I put that on my resume, unlike the other person we've been talking about tonight, it's what I do. And I try to at least make sure I know what I'm talking about before I say it publicly.
And when you were with the Manhattan DA's office, what kind of cases were you prosecuting there?
All kinds. Again, I mean, it's New York City, right? I mean, any young prosecutor starts out with, crimes that, these are like New York City crimes. I mean, you had people who jumped turnstiles in the subway or did things like that. But, ultimately, I mean, it is New York City. So by the time you leave, you're up to people being subjected to very serious crimes, violent crimes, murder, or things similar. All kinds of white collar crimes, as we talked about, falsifying business records, which is the crime du jour in Manhattan with Trump. That's another conversation for another day we can have. But all kinds, and in private practice, everything, murder cases, other types of high profile stuff, and sometimes little stuff, all over the place.
Awesome. Mazza Media.
Yeah, the next question I had for Mark was just to ask you about the jury selection process. And there's some concern among some of us in the movement about this selection process and who is actually going to be vetted and selected as the jury. Presently, they're aiming, obviously, for your 12-person jury with 8 alternates is what they're targeting. As a defense attorney for you, have you ever had any concern about the jury selection process in terms of this being just not in your favor, and if so, do you ever feel like that affected your ability to perform in court, get your point across, anything of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, normally, again, and I'm speaking generally, not about Karen Reed, because I
Yeah.
think Karen Reed is the opposite of what I'm about to say generally.
Mhm.
The first concern I would have generally is that if there was a case of just unknown defendant A in a county like Norfolk County, which I know is a larger county in Massachusetts, but it's not that large for given the amount of attention that the case is getting, particularly locally, but also, we're hearing about it in New York. Look, they made the New York Post with this one. Okay. That's the gold standard of it's everywhere. So normally I would be concerned, how am I getting a fair jury for, in a county of this size when everybody has heard about the case, everybody has an opinion. It just, so the first thought you'd have is, am I seeking a change of venue? The reason why I assume, I don't know the defense attorneys in this case personally, that they did not do that is because I think this case is the opposite. I think putting aside, again, a lot of the quackery and the Wendy's and all of that, that the majority of people and the majority of the press, again, on a reasonable doubt standard, has actually been very good for her. And I think that, and they'll certainly voir dire, which is the process of jury selection, or did voir dire about what reasonable doubt is. But I think that the defense actually would go in with an advantage in jury selection in this particular case. Now, again, you need to weed out the quacks and the weirdos and those who are, too invested in this one way or the other. And of course, the prosecution is going to want to get rid of everyone who they think is, free Karen Reed. And that's, again, I would be concerned if I were them, because a lot of people seem to support her. But so I don't think the defense is concerned literally in that. Now, the other thing is that in order for her to get convicted, the DA has to get 12 out of 12. And so, if the defense were even to get one juror to hang the jury, then she's not getting convicted. And then there's this issue of, are they going to have to retry the case? And there's going to be a lot of public pressure on the DA not to do it. And who knows what else would happen. More evidence comes out, or more whatever comes out suggesting that maybe she didn't do this, or they find other evidence that's exculpatory. But I don't think the defense here is going to be the one that ought to be concerned with the jury selection. I think that it's going to help them.
Yeah. What do you think? Follow-up question. What do you think about, there's been a lot of statements about Karen Reed's defense team. They have a great presence. They're very well spoken. They're extremely well prepared. The opposite of that is prosecutor Adam Lally, who looks like the kid with the blanket with all the dirt on him on Charlie Brown's show. He just doesn't look focused. He doesn't look attentive. He doesn't look engaged. In terms of a jury's perspective, I know you're the defense attorney, you have the defense attorney's perspective, but what have you ever been in a situation where you've been up against this prosecutor where you've just absolutely this guy's a no contest for you? And does that necessarily equate to the outcome of a case as it's determined by the jury being a cakewalk for you?
Well, anytime, look, lawyers are, don't laugh at this, are human beings, lawyer jokes aside. Meaning they have natural thoughts, feelings in their own head that they would never share. So of course, human nature at some point will kick in, and you might say, this guy, the prosecutor, he doesn't seem up to this. He doesn't seem ready for prime time and whatnot. And we all do that. I mean, we're lawyers. By definition, 99% of lawyers are egomaniacs and sizing each other up with this and that. But when you do that, what a good lawyer does is the minute that happens, you say, duly noted, you whack yourself in the head and you say, forget it. Okay. I have a client whose liberty is at stake. I assume nothing. I am not overconfident. I am focused, laser focused, like, Tom Brady would say.
Right.
And I'm not going to let these thoughts get into my head. As far as how, you could also wonder, well, how does the jury look at that? And I think that's a fair point. I mean, she has good attorneys. They've obviously tried cases. They're professional. They speak well. They're prepared. As you said, they're groomed. I don't know the prosecutor, and I don't want to disparage it. I don't know what his skills are, but his courtroom presence compared to her side, the courtroom is tilted in that regard. Yeah. And, a jury, they notice those things. But I think the concern I would have if I were the prosecution is, are people wondering, this is, the so-called biggest case of the century out there. It's huge. I mean, it's a national case. You have a man who was killed who was a police officer. That always adds attention. You have a defendant who is not what you'd call your typical defendant for a lot of reasons. So that's going to add attention. It's tearing a town apart or whatever. So it's a big story, but you have to wonder, if this is such a big case, why don't they have, the big gun trying this from the DA's office? Or is this the big gun? And
Right,
it's
right,
more like a
Yeah.
big pop gun. I don't
Right.
know. But
Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
and again, it's a big county. So, I don't know how many. I mean, look, when I was a DA in Manhattan, we had 600 ADAs. I mean, it was, a different kind of place. And, the people who used to work in that office, they would range from governors, Kennedys, all kinds of people. I don't
Right.
know if that's the case in a smaller county like this, but whoever is the best and brightest and most skilled that they have, damn well should be trying the case. Now, based on, again, caveats aside, what little I've seen, both in terms of argument, poise, and presence, yikes.
Yeah, right.
Yikes.
Exactly. He's always coming in out of breath. Number one. I mean, that's just like he looks like he just rushed in. He's always
Well, that's probably from being scared shitless.
yeah, yeah,
He's
I
ripping
mean,
butts in the parking lot trying to
yeah.
calm
He's
himself down.
smoking more than usual.
It's a big case, obviously. And again, human nature. I don't want to come across as, the guy who blew this, the idiot. I have to deal with the families. I have to deal with the protesters, the criticism. I have to deal with you guys talking about me.
Yeah,
I mean, look, all those kinds of things. But I guess to me, just to get back to the question, it's stunning that you would think that there would be a go-to person in an office. It's not, it's not a small town in Mississippi where the DA is the prosecutor. It's a big case. They've been theoretically preparing this for trial for what, 2 years now or thereabouts.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
and this is where we are. I mean, look, in terms of just legal skill, yeah, again, it's easy for me to say because I'm not thinking like her lawyers are, which is I'm not going to get overconfident. I'm not going to think like this, but I would expect just in terms of presence, persuasive argument, legal acumen, and just overall lawyering skills, I would think that her lawyers are going to mop the floor with the prosecutor based on what I've seen.
I would
I
hope
agree.
so. Mazza, you got to go now, don't you?
Yeah, I got to roll. I got to rock and roll about my 8 p.m. Time limit for the evening. So, Mark, it was awesome meeting you. I was actually going to follow you on X, and I realized that I already follow you
Oh,
on
okay,
X. So
well.
I was like, there we go. I must have come across you before, but it's been a pleasure coming on the show, Mike.
Thank
And Mark,
you.
nice meeting you. And we love your input. It's been awesome, Mark. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And
Yeah.
I'll take off now. Have a great evening, everybody.
You too. Thank Mazamita. I want to keep the attorney for a little bit longer. I got one more, at least one more question. The third party defense has come up. The judge ruled that she would somehow allow it, but not really from the beginning, not from the opening statements. Do you think that's going to affect their defense like why allow it at all? Like if she like why go halfway? Like I always feel like this judge is trying to please both sides. How does that work? Like you can't talk about it at the beginning, but later on you can. I'm not sure.
Yes, I'm going to assume, trying to piece this together, that what she's saying, perhaps not articulately, I don't know, is that if there is evidence that comes in that I hear that will support, you can point the finger at some other person, I will allow it, but I need to know it exists before I say you can do it. In other words, I'm not going to let you open on it because an opening statement is not evidence. An opening statement is where the parties preview what they expect the evidence will be. And I'm going to assume that what the judge is doing is saying, I'm not going to let you open on this. Then it turns out you don't produce it. And now I have to instruct the jury to disregard that, but the cat's out of the bag and I don't want my jurors thinking and speculating. So I don't think it's necessarily the wrong ruling per se, but the bottom line is this: if they have, again, credible evidence that would support a reasonable view that it was a third party, then that's coming in. I mean, that's the law in every state. I mean, you have a right to present a defense, and if you have part of your defense is that someone else did it and there's evidence of it, I can do it. Now that's different than somebody getting up, in a closing argument or saying or cross-examining somebody and saying, well, isn't it a fact that, some guy down the street did it because I say so, and that's what really happened. I mean, you can't just do that and speculate and throw mud for the sake of throwing mud. But, you know, if they're putting a very nuanced argument before the jury about why we think there's a third party that we can prove, or not prove, but suggest did it. Again, they don't have to prove anything. Let's be clear. The prosecution has to prove her guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That the third party defense would just, you know, go a long way if a jury credits it. Well, let's be stronger than that. If the jury credits it, she's walking out free. End of story. You know, on top of everything else. So I wouldn't assume that the judge is literally putting the stop to this. You know, she does seem like a cautious judge from what I've seen, who maybe, you know, again, it's a huge case. It may be something that's, you know, not common, and it makes everyone nervous and act cautious, I guess. But I wouldn't assume that the defense is not going to be able to get that evidence before the jury. I would expect they would.
We got another question that came up, and I thought this was strange too. Kathy asks, is it unusual for a prosecutor in a criminal case to ask for the jurors to be Corey checked, which is a criminal background check? Yeah, I've never heard of that. Is that something that happens? Have you seen that? Where
not in advance. I mean, look, normally the way this is done in New York, with all, you know, all caveats apply, you know, there are standard questions in jury selection that would be asked of all jurors as part of the initial screening. And of course, you know, one of those would be, has anyone been convicted of a crime or been arrested? And, you know, and then the jurors would get individually questioned about it, normally out of the presence of everyone else, because it's embarrassing. And of course, you know, lawyers need to know that on both sides, because if somebody was wrongfully arrested or convicted, you know, obviously a prosecution is going to say, well, this is a bad juror. They may be bitter at the system. They're not going to be fair and impartial, and vice versa. You know, if somebody is a victim of a serious crime, you know, or whatnot, you know, you don't want jurors that can't be fair and impartial, you know, notwithstanding what happens in Wendy World. Again, most sane, fair-minded people would agree, whatever they think of Karen Reed, that the way to resolve this, if there's going to be a trial, is a fair and impartial jury, and it'll happen, whatever's going to happen. So no, I think it is unique to literally pre-background check jurors. You know, and it does sound a little Orwellian to be.
yeah.
Now, of course, if somebody says I've never been convicted of a crime, and the other side finds out that that's not true, you know, jury selection, the prospective jurors, they're sworn in. The statements they make are under oath.
Exactly.
Under the theory they'll tell the truth, which, you know, is not always the case, as we all know. But to do that in advance is rare. That is not common. And as I'm finding out more and more every day, nothing about this case is common.
There's a lot of strangeness to it, especially with a federal investigation going on the whole time. And
that's crazy. That never happens.
yes. People have questions all day, but a lot of the questions people are asking right now are so evidence-based that I just don't want to go there, because I know you don't know every detail of this case like we all do.
I guarantee I would. I mean, you can take a shot, and again, rather than guess, I'll let you know that I'm not that equipped.
Yeah.
But I'll leave that to you.
I'm just looking through now, but I really appreciate you. You're on Twitter. Tell people how they can find you, follow you on Twitter, on X, or wherever else you're on social media, or even I know you have a website too for your services.
Yeah, my website is bederowlaw.com. It's real original, last name law.com. That's what I use on X. I have a law office Facebook page like everyone else. And, you know, I have cases that very often are newsworthy in New York. So you could see some of that as well, just, you know, in the news or whatnot. But yeah, Bederow Law on X is where I am.
Here's a question that came up. Will the defense submit their own exhibit list?
Yeah, I mean, a trial has to be fair for both sides. Yeah, I mean, obviously a defendant has a constitutional right to a fair trial, but you know, it's not, a trial is not designed to be trial by ambush. So, you know, the sides have a right to know who are the witnesses, what are the exhibits you expect, you know, to ask about, and you know, you're supposed to have a general idea what's going to happen. Now, that's not always the case, but and you know, if there are strange names on the witness list, you know, the parties could ask for what's called an offer of proof to say, you know, Judge, I'd like to know what this witness would testify about. What I'd like to know is, did the DA ask for an offer of proof on Morrissey? And if they didn't, why didn't they? Was that because they were afraid of what, you know, her lawyers were going to say in open court about why they need him to testify? So you know, that I'd love to know. But yeah, they have to submit a witness list, an exhibit list, all of that.
Excellent. There's a question. Got a few questions, but someone said, are there watchdog agencies that can investigate tax money being abused by investigators and DA? A lot of people think there's money being abused, especially in the Aiden Carney case, which is the witness intimidation with the billing with the special prosecutor. And is it possible? Does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, each state has. I mean, first of all, if the tax money is being misused, you know, it depends. It could be just a wasteful thing where you have good government watchdogs. If it's being misused in other ways, you know, you could have crimes being committed, possibly. I mean, for example, you know, I think one of the things that people were wondering was in the Georgia Trump case was that, you know, was when Fannie Willis basically hired her unqualified boyfriend to prosecute Trump and got money or vacations and gifts in return, whether that could have been some form of what we call honest services fraud. So there are groups. It could be federal prosecutors, depending on what it is. It could be, I don't know if this is the case in New York, in Massachusetts, the Attorney General's office. I don't know if they have the jurisdiction. You know, in New York, the Attorney General has criminal, you know, authorization to bring certain types of cases. But yeah, no, there can be punishment. There could be ethical violations, and you know, it may very well be that the Carney thing is one of those. That is about as dumb a prosecution that there is, and it's probably unconstitutional in terms of, you know, accusing him of witness tampering, given, you know, his status as a journalist and trying to get stories. They may think he's obnoxious, and he may be or not be, but that doesn't make him someone tampering with witnesses. Oops. Did I lose your sound? I think I lost you.
Oh, thank you. It was me.
Yep.
Thank you for letting me know. I think the thing on Aiden too is that he was so effective. That's why they went after him. If he had been effective for their side, for the prosecution, they would have never gone after him. It's just
well, I'll tell you something. You know, we talked earlier about like how jurors or the public perceive things. For them to go after him for this, the witness tampering, I mean, the stuff with the girlfriend, that's even worse. That's just embarrassing. But to go after him because he's reporting things that they don't like, and they think he's just too aggressive and obnoxious, again, all of that, all it does is demonstrate the profound weakness of the prosecution, that they are being, you know, intimidated in the sense that, ouch, this hurts. We're losing, you know, we're not being perceived the way we want to. And to use the power of the government to, you know, suppress your journalist enemy, that's scary.
That's awful.
That's really terrible. I mean, look, again, they may not like him. They may think he does awful things or whatnot, but you know, this is America. And you're not supposed to just arrest your enemies because you don't like what they're doing. And when that, you know, enemy is a journalist, it makes it all the more complicated, you know, from a legal standpoint. But God, does it make the DA's office look petty, pathetic, and desperate. It really does.
And there's been a lot of us that have been threatened, actually. So it's like beyond Aiden too. It's just it's what they've done is just horrible. It really is. It's disgusting. They've gone to people's houses, just average citizens. Some of them, even myself, I've felt a lot. I've gotten a lot of threats. But
it's good to know that Massachusetts has so much, public money available for important investigations and prosecutions too. That's very encouraging.
Right, especially when we actually don't have the money
Right,
right now.
right.
It's so
That was,
funny. I know it's facetious, but
yeah,
it's just a reality. I just want to remind people we really don't have the money. Uh, do prosecution witnesses have to say in advance if they will be pleading the fifth?
maybe this is Wendy who submitted this question. No, all kidding aside, it's a good question. So the way it works is this: again, you have to differentiate between a witness and a defendant who is going to be a witness. A defendant has an absolute right not to testify. In fact, a judge will charge the jury that and say you may draw no negative inference from that, and lawyers will voir dire on that. Ask, will you respect that right? As far as other witnesses, unless there's an agreement where the parties, don't want to call the witness because they know they're going to do it, you can force the witness to get up there and take the fifth if it's just a regular witness. And look, obviously, if there are prosecution witnesses who have some, skeletons in the closet, and whether they have their own lawyers and are being advised that they would, from the defense standpoint, you're gonna play that card for all it's worth, and you're gonna drag them up there and have them look at the jury and say those, Ollie North words again and again. And sometimes too, in a rare case, a witness will start testifying and they will twist themselves into a pretzel to the point where a judge or one of the lawyers will say, approach the bench and say, this guy needs a lawyer because he's treading into likely perjury and, incriminating himself. But if there are prosecution witnesses who don't want to testify, they're going to have to tell the world and tell them from the stand.
That'll happen on the stand. That's when we'll find out, people, because I think a lot of people are wondering if some of these witnesses are going to plead the fifth. A lot of them, almost all of them, have big known like lawyers. They're attorneys have shown up in court. We know who they are. They're attorneys. They've got like some of the best criminal defense attorneys around. Like,
no, I mean, it's a problem. And, I know I read somewhere that one of the police officers involved, was hauled in before the federal grand jury and at least initially denied either knowing, the important people, or denied talking to them about it or getting gifts. And then, the feds have a way of making you come clean, trust me. And then he eventually came clean. Now his lawyer is doing his job. I never fault the lawyer for saying, this is a nothing burger. We've been told by the feds he's not getting charged. He's not a target. That's not the point. I mean, that's a lawyer doing his job, protecting the witness client from the sense of getting indicted by the feds, maybe. But the bottom line is, if he's a witness who has to testify in this case, he's going to get destroyed by the defense, because whether he ultimately corrected the testimony, if he said A under oath and then contradicted it with B, and then they're able to extract the reasons why he did that because it was in front of a federal grand jury and this and that, and whether they can even say there's a federal grand jury, I don't know if the judge is allowing that, but whether he testified A then B, why would he deny knowing people involved? I mean, if he's doing an honest job, then just do an honest job. And then the lawyers will start with, if he's willing to lie about that stuff, the so-called smaller stuff, then ladies and gentlemen, what else is this guy not telling you? These are the things that I just, wonder, where in the hell is the DA going? Again, I'm not suggesting she absolutely has to be innocent,
right.
But I think all of these, I don't know, probably, frankly, but again, I'm willing to hear evidence. But as lawyers who do this for a living and just have an understanding of how these things generally work, I don't know the path to convincing 12 jurors. Oh yeah, beyond a reasonable doubt, no doubt. And, fortunately for any person who ever gets charged with a crime, guilty or innocent, the Wendy Murphys of the world will never be on the jury, thank God. And, real jurors who are doing this seriously, how are you getting 12 out of 12 to say that there's no reasonable doubt just based on some of the issues that we've talked about? I don't see
Right.
it.
Right. I could imagine that if you had an opportunity, you would have loved to take this case to be the
Oh,
defender. The
absolutely.
dream case. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, it absolutely. This is, I get involved in a lot of very fascinating and interesting cases, and this would have been, right at the top. This is a great case. The good news is, she does have very good lawyers. And, the DA brought an indictment. She's pled not guilty. Judge didn't dismiss it. So there's really only one thing left for them to do, which is tee it up. And, the whole sordid saga will come out, at trial. And if I'll tell you one thing, if the DA's overall theory here is that she intended to either kill him or, cause him serious injury, which resulted in his death, and that's the basis of the murder charge, and the alleged motive is because, she left him a nasty voicemail, because, like happens every day in life, people break up and argue and fight and hate each other and whatever. It's a hard stretch to take what appears to be a seemingly sane, successful woman who just, has nothing better to do than say, I'll show him, I'll just plow over him in the snow and kill him and leave him in the driveway. Now, if that's their theory, it doesn't mean it's not true, but man, that's not great.
And we're getting a lot of comments tonight that the audience definitely enjoyed your expertise and your delivery. They really like you. So they want to know if you're going to come back. That was one of the recent comments. A few comments.
No, again, this is what I do. I'm happy to talk to you about it as much as I can. Whether it be legal issues, whether it be,
Well, I was thinking, because we're gonna, be streaming it and watching this trial throughout. Will you come on, call in again on
Sure.
like a weeknight and do kind of go through it with us on some of these nights? Especially, I know there's going to be some legal issues that come up, and I would love to have a criminal defense attorney.
Yeah,
on
yeah. All I'll tell you is hopefully those nights will not occur during, Celtics playoff games if possible.
Oh, you're a big Celtics fan. Is tonight an off night? See, I should know.
Oh, we're good. We're good tonight.
You just let me know. You just, we'll work it around the Celtics.
Tomorrow night bad. Tonight good. Tomorrow night bad.
Yeah.
But no, all kidding aside, I'm happy to help. Enjoy.
And so you come to Boston for the games?
I do. I come often. Actually, I was there this weekend for the Celtics and Bruins games. So, I get back as much as I can. I still have some family.
So you're from Boston. You're from Boston.
I'm from Framingham. I'm from Framingham.
Oh, you're a Framingham dude. I knew a wrestler from Framingham, Sean Connery. I don't know if you know him. He's Bridgewater State guy, good wrestler. The Connery brothers.
The only Sean Connery I know is 007, but yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. But yeah, so I want to thank you so much for being on here, Framingham guy. Sure. Did you go to school around here too?
No, I went to college out west and then came back to Syracuse for law school, and then I've been in New York City since.
Cool. All right. So cool. We got your whole background tonight. I thank you so much for being here tonight. This is great to have an attorney. Say where people can follow you again, find you.
At Bederow Law. That's just my last name, BEDEROW law.com.
Awesome.
Well, that's my at Bederow Law is the X Twitter. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you so much for coming in tonight. Attorney Mark Bederow, thank you so much. We're the Young Jerks, and I want to thank everyone for listening tonight and watching. He was phenomenal. That was the first episode ever on the Young Jerks with Mark Bederow, April 23rd, 2024, almost 10 months ago, a little more than 10 months ago. People want him back. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We don't know what's going to happen. I haven't talked to Attorney Bederow, or Mark, as we refer to him as. Funny how the audience immediately was asking, are you going to come back? Are you going to come back? Are you going to... He came back 60 plus times. he's been on this show, and I guarantee you he's probably been on probably close to that many episodes on all the other shows that he's done as well. So I would say he did over 100 episodes on YouTube of Karen Reed, doing multiple hours. He probably spent 200 hours on YouTube discussing this show, discussing Karen Reed. And they want to deny him, that guy, the guy who put all that time in. And he's the top criminal defense attorney in New York City, a former prosecutor. Like I said, when FBI agent, a major FBI agent, was up on the biggest charges of, against him, he hired Mark Bederow, Bederow 1. He's had police officers on the stand cross-examining him, where they had to stop to drop the charges. They had to stop the trial right in the middle of it, right in the middle of the cross-examination of the police officer. We got to stop this trial. Bederow's doing too much damage. That's the guy that they're trying to keep out. So I figured we'd play this tonight. And if we can't have Bederow on the show, and if we can't have Bederow in the court, we're just going to start playing Bederow episodes. We got 60 of them. You could just keep playing them, because he is just amazing to listen to, and we're missing him. So we played him tonight. That was the first episode. A lot of you didn't see it because we didn't have quite the viewership that we did get over April of 2024, May, June, especially June. June was the biggest month ever for us, 2024. And we're starting to build numbers again, coming up on the Karen Reed retrial. So I figured it would be a good time to replay this. I know some of you have already seen it. We played a little clip from it maybe a few months ago, I think, when Bederow left. But this is the whole episode we played for you tonight. And I wanted everyone to get to watch it. So maybe we'll play more episodes of Bederow coming up. But we'll see what happens with this. I hope it's appealable. We've got a bunch of attorneys coming on this week. First of all, on Sunday night, we just confirmed it during this rebroadcast, actually, that we have attorney Nan Gallagher coming back on Sunday night at 6 p.m. We have another huge attorney who's on YouTube, has a huge following, on Thursday night at 6 p.m. I'm going to announce that later this week. Tomorrow night, Rita Lombardi is back on the show. Going to talk about all things Ken. And if you missed Rita, she's back tomorrow night on the Young Jerks. I can't wait. One-on-one, Rita Lombardi with me. Rita Lombardi and Mike Crawford show tomorrow night, Saturday, 6 p.m. Sunday night, attorney Nan Gallagher is going to be here. Monday night, we have another new attorney, first time on the show. It's going to be fun. I'm going to announce that very soon as well. On Friday night, we have another new guest. That's the phenomenal. This week is going to be a big week for us for guests. We're going to have some major guests on the show. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to keep on this Karen Reed. Free Karen Reed. If you can donate, please kick a donation in. Karen Reed Defense Fund. Just do a Google search. You'll find it. Or freekarenreed.net. Click on the link. Scroll down the page. You'll see the Defense Fund. Make sure you donate if you can. I'm waiting for new stickers. We're going to do more fundraisers. Maybe Sunday night. Maybe we'll do another one with Nan. Nan helped us bring thousands of dollars in for the Karen Reed Defense Fund that went directly to her defense fund on her website. You guys donated thousands of dollars, and I sent over 60 envelopes of stickers that I stuffed and addressed and stamped myself. It was fun to do. And we're going to have, you took all the stickers. We have no more stickers left, except for the Young Jerks ones, which I did make sure everyone got one. But we're going to do it again. I'm going to have a bunch more new stickers, a Young Jelly sticker, actually, a bunch of new stickers. We're going to do another fundraiser for Karen Reed. I want to thank everyone who's been supporting, all the guests that we have on. I want to thank Mazza Media, who we replayed tonight. Check him out, follow him. And Attorney Mark Bederow. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for everything you've been doing for Karen Reed and Aiden Carney. And hopefully this gets reversed. We shall see. We'll be covering it. Again, I'll see you all tomorrow night. I want to thank everyone who did a super chat tonight. Let's look at the super chats. Thank you so much, Desiree D. Yeah, we miss Bunk. I want to thank A. I will make a hefty contribution. She said she wants to do a billboard in Boston or a front page on the Boston Herald. Maybe A, head up Nick Rocco. He's in the Justice for John O'Keefe and Karen Reed Facebook group, Turtle Boy Official. Look for that Facebook group. Look for Nick Rocco. He does a lot of fundraisers. He's very reputable. He's done a billboard already for Karen Reed. I would check him out if you're interested in working with someone who's serious about doing that type of fundraising for Karen Reed. And he's close to the family, talks to them directly. Boda Bob asked, does the number of attorneys make Karen Reed look guilty? After all, why would an innocent defendant need 4 or 5 attorneys? You might think that normally, like if it was a mafia guy or something, right? But in this case, Karen Reed is a financial professional. She was a financial fund manager, basically a portfolio manager. These are like high level. I worked in the financial industry. These are the top jobs you want. And she is not the leader of a organized crime ring. You know what that represents to me, the 4 or 5 attorneys, Boda Bob, is that how crooked the system is. That she needs 4 or 5 top attorneys, not just like regular attorneys. Like these are top level. Alan Jackson's number 1 in the country, criminal defense. Kevin Spacey hired him. The other dirtbag hired him. Like there's a reason why he gets those high profile cases. Alessi, look at his portfolio. Look at Bederow. These are like top A level. And you should ask yourself, why do they want to do it? Why do they want to do it pro bono? Because they know she's innocent. That's why. So that's why she has 4 or 5 attorneys. Because they know what she's up against and what this is. And these are very serious people. Alan Jackson, Robert Alessi, they're very serious. Mark Bederow. But you should ask yourself, why would 4 or 5 attorneys want to be in on this? And why would they want to do it pro bono? Kevin Higgins says, God, I missed the truth. I missed the 3Ms. Mike Crawford, Mike Mazavidia, Mark Bederow. Let's reunite. I wish. I think we all want it. But I think what we really need is Bederow defending Karen Reed. Possibly. I'm not sure what what info you're talking about. Depends on what you're talking about. Thank you for the super chat. Don't ban or something. Is that what it is? Thank you so much. And I want to thank Kevin Higgins today. I don't know. I don't really want to. Who knows on that? I wish Aid would stay out of Canton, but Aid's a big boy. You know, it is what it is. Kind of silly, man. It's silly on all counts. Like Chris Albert crying about that. I mean, come on. Jesus Christ. I think it's more, you could criticize Aiden for it or whatnot, but I think it's even more childish that they waste police time on it. That they call the police about it. Right. All right. I want to thank all the super chatters. Kim, Amy's Positive Pathways again. Greg, thank you so much. Thank you, Laura. Kevin Higgins in here a lot. Greg, thank you so much. I think I hit them all. I want to check the chat real quick, see what you guys are doing in there. I've been in there. I've been watching you guys all night. Did I get this one? I did. I got Desiree. Okay, I got them all. I like Aiden. You know, Will they? That's a good question. We're going to ask all the attorneys, is it even appealable? We're hearing different things in the chat, which usually means some uncertainty. We need to find out from the experts. I have a feeling we'll be finding out soon. I'm feeling either Kelly Reed or Nick Rocco or one of them will let most of us know, the creators, or if not, Aiden will find out and tell everyone. We'll find out. Yeah, tomorrow night, Saturday, Rita Lombardi again, 6 p.m. I'm looking forward to that. Rita Lombardi coming back on the show. It's going to be fun. Talk about all things Canton, the select board campaign, John Conley. And then on Sunday, we have attorney Nan Gallagher. We're going to talk all about the motions, all about the Bederow stuff. She'll be back on the show Sunday night. Monday night, I have another new attorney discussing all kinds of Karen Reed stuff as well. They're on top of this. I'm looking forward to that show as well. I'm going to announce that very soon. Thursday night, we have another major attorney, YouTuber that we're going to announce. I can't wait. Have her one-on-one. On Friday night, we have another somebody talking about Karen Reed that I think is impressive as well. Friday night. I think I'm missing something. But you see, this week, make sure you subscribe and make sure you follow the notifications. Like, make sure you check every night. Because we're probably doing a show at 6 p.m. and there's probably someone you want to watch. Give or take a, off chance, off night, like this was supposed to be, but it hasn't been. We're still live. Tonight, I'm not supposed to be doing a show, and I'm doing a show. That's why I'm going. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Rita Lombardi, Sunday, attorney Nan Gallagher, and the rest of the week be here too, because I'm going all in on Karen Reed right now. We're going to be covering this. It's going to be a lot of different guests coming in. And you never know. Bederow could pop in. I don't know. The way that we always work with Bederow, sometimes we'd hit each other up last minute and say, hey, you want to jump on with this guest tonight? So who knows? Maybe that will happen this week. Well, I don't know. I have no idea. I would love it. But if it doesn't happen, we're still golden on this show. We're cruising right now. We've had some great shows. If you didn't get a chance, go back and listen to the interview that we just broadcast like a week or two ago, probably a week ago, with Aiden Carney. That was a great interview. I really enjoyed that interview, and just sitting there letting him go over his motion to dismiss. That was amazing. I really enjoyed the Runkle interview recently. Carl Steinbeck, who we had on earlier this week, and a lot of those interviews as well with attorney Nan Gallagher, who we're going to have back on Sunday. We've been having some amazing shows here. Abby as well. So there's going to be more of that coming up, and I'm looking forward to it. We're going to do a lot more this week. Check it out this week. I'm telling you. Young Jerks, make sure you're following up every night. Thank you so much. I had fun on Auntie Deb's show today. That was a first for me. I made it through the quiz section. He was asking me all kinds of questions, even like about the first girl I kissed and all this. I hope after that show, I was like, man, I hope I don't hear from the girl. I hope she doesn't get mad at me and I said her name. All right. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow night with Rita Lombardi. Can't wait. Have a good night. Good night, MJ. Thank you, Sarah Shockenhara. I want to thank Stephanie, Jen. I can't even say the names. I'm laughing so hard. Auntie Deb got me going today. I was talking a lot. Have a good night, everyone. See you tomorrow.